destroy too.
Hello everyone, welcome to What If Tanjiro Joined Muzan's side after mastering Sun Breathing movie. Before we start, please go support Alini369 for writing that awesome fanfic. This is the translated version I made. There will be some mistaken character's gender, but of course Tanjiro is a male. What would have happened if Tanjiro had given in to Muzan and become a demon completely? The second demon besides Nezuko to master the sun and now possesses the greatest power of all demons, capable of killing pillars and creating more demons. The birth of the strongest demon. The sun was beginning to rise. Tanjiro and Gyu had Muzan pinned against a wall, preventing him from moving, so the sun would strike him and they could win the fight once and for all. With Gyu's sword, it turned red, eliciting a scream from Muzan, who began to burn with the first rays of the sun that hit him. But what they didn't expect was that he would use his last card and transform into a giant deformed baby. Tanjiro was sucked inside. "Tanjiro!" Gyu shouted, falling backwards. The scab that Muzan had formed was burning in the sun. It tried to find shade, but the few remaining swordsmen did everything in their power to prevent it. They threw bookshelves at it and rammed cars into it, but whatever it was, it kept trying to find shade. Sanemi, wounded, continued fighting, slicing off one of the scab's baby's arms with his katana. "You stubborn piece of shit. Turn to dust already." Sanemi shouted angrily. With his last bit of strength, Jayame, his chains, and the help of some swordsmen, forced the deformed giant baby back, allowing more sunlight to reach it. The baby tried to burrow underground, but Gyu and Sanemi began cutting it down. Iguro joined in with his last breath, and it wasn't until Tanjiro did something inside that the baby began to turn to dust. When there was nothing left, everyone began to celebrate and cry tears of joy. Jayame could finally rest, as could Iguro and Mitsuri, who promised to meet again in the next life. Sanemi was being treated for his multiple injuries, and Inosuke and Zenitsu were also being bandaged. Gyu searched for Tanjiro, worried, until he saw him, surrounded by 3 Kikuchi trying to help him. Tanjiro was kneeling, missing an arm and firmly holding his Nichiren sword, his head bowed and his breathing shallow. Gyu slowly approached Tanjiro, knelt down, and brought their heads together as tears streamed down his cheeks. "I couldn't protect someone I loved again," the dark-haired man lamented. "I'm always the one who ends up being protected by others. I'm so sorry." In the distance, a girl could be seen running through tears in the direction where Gyu was. It was Nezuko, who was human again. A while earlier, inside the deformed baby. Muzan saw in front of him an apparently unconscious Tanjiro, the two of them inside that pinkish flesh. "I was witnessing that reality, trembling with emotion. My body will most likely be destroyed by the sunlight in just moments," however Muzan thought, extending his free hand to Tanjiro's face. "My feelings will remain indestructible, eternal. So I've decided to entrust all my emotions to this brat. His heart and breathing have stopped, but most of his cells aren't destroyed. He's still alive. I still have time. I'll pump my blood, my power, my everything into you. If you manage to escape sudden death and stay alive, Kamado Tanjiro, you will conquer the sunlight, you will become the strongest demon king. After all, you share the same blood as Kamado Nezuko, since you are her older brother and the only one who can use the same breathing art as that monster. You won't die. I believe in you. Make my dream a reality, Tanjiro, you." Present. The men around Tanjiro kept crying, and Gyu continued to stare at the still body of the red-haired boy. "You will destroy the demon hunters in my place." Tanjiro opened his eyes suddenly, revealing pink eyes with pupils like a cat's. Tanjiro was now a demon. Huh? A man next to Tanjiro wondered. The newly transformed man grew a new arm where there had been nothing before, and with it, he almost hit a man next to him if it hadn't been for Gyu pulling him away in time. Huh? What? Tanjiro wondered a woman standing next to Tanjiro, who had been crying over his supposed death just seconds before. Upon seeing her again, Tanjiro displayed a wide smile, his eyes brimming with power, saliva dripping from his mouth and his mark spreading across his face. He raised his arm, revealing his long nails ready to slice through flesh. "Run away!" Gyu shouted desperately, running back towards Tanjiro. Tanjiro only managed to graze the woman when he noticed the sun, which began to beat down on him, causing him to scream in pain. "Die! Og!" Tanjiro groaned as he felt his skin burning. "Wake up and run!" Gyu shouted, drawing his sword and pushing Tanjiro's men away. "Everyone who can move, grab your weapons and come here now." Those who heard the message wondered why all the commotion. It should all have been over by now. Muzan was dead. Tanjiro has become a demon. Keep him in the sun until he's burned to death. Gyu's voice boomed. Inosuke and Zenitsu froze. Kill Tanjiro before he kills someone. Tanjiro delivered a powerful kick to try and take cover under the shadow of a partially collapsed building, but he was intercepted by Gyu, who prevented him from escaping the sunlight. I can't let him be covered by the shadow, Gyu thought, preventing Tanjiro from moving. If I had reacted even a second late, that Kikuchi would definitely have been killed. I beg you, become who you were again, be Tanjiro again, just die. Small tears trickled down Gyu's cheeks as he made such a wish. Meanwhile, the sunlight stopped burning Tanjiro. The light has stopped burning him, it can't be, the black-haired man thought fearfully. Taking advantage of Gyu's opening, Tanjiro struck him on the chin. He was about to deliver another blow that would have killed him, but Inosuke arrived and stopped him. What the hell are you doing? Inosuke shouted angrily. Tanjiro. Zenitsu arrived supported by a Kikuchi. Tanjiro went on the defensive, his eyes intent on attacking, his burns were fading, he growled like a cat, and his teeth became fangs. This can't be happening, Tanjiro, Zenitsu whispered, in disbelief. Inosuke saw his friend transformed into that thing he had wanted to kill for so long. No one can fight anymore, we're all exhausted, this is just too much. What about Nezuko-chan? Tanjiro. Zenitsu said, his eyes filled with tears. With 3 quick jumps, Tanjiro reached Inosuke, who could barely defend himself with one attack. Inosuke's thoughts. We're all Nakama, so we're like brothers, so for that reason if someone goes down the wrong path, we'll all stop them, no matter how painful or tortuous it may be, let's walk together on the right path. Tanjiro, stop. Zenitsu cried, sobbing. I'll cut him off, I'll stop him. Inosuke's memory. The human Tanjiro was holding out a cooked fish. Inosuke, you can eat this one too if you want, Tanjiro smiled with his characteristic kindness. End of memory. Inosuke brought his sword close to Tanjiro's neck, who wore a face like that of an angry predator. I can't cut it, I can't do it, Tanjiro, I just can't. Tears streamed down the boar mask. Inosuke, at that moment, failed to cut Tanjiro's throat when he had the golden opportunity. Everything fell silent when Nezuko appeared. She had pulled Inosuke away and received Tanjiro's bite instead. Ani-chan, I'm sorry, Nezuko hugged her brother, who didn't loosen his grip. All this time, I never understood anything. Forgive me. You carried all this weight on your shoulders, Ani-chan. Why are you always the one who ends up suffering, Ani-chan? Nezuko began to cry. Why are all these kind people giving their last breath to survive? Why are they always trampled on? This is too sad. Don't give up, Ani-chan, just a little longer. I can't turn you into a demon. Come back, okay? Let's go home. Tanjiro, stop. Zenitsu arrived crying and hugged Tanjiro from behind. It's Nezuko-chan. She's back. She's human again. If he keeps doing that, he'll die. She's calling for her brother. Do you know that? Tanjiro released Nezuko's bite, roared, and prepared to deliver another bite that would surely kill her by bleeding out. Stop it. Inosuke smacked him on the head, blocking the bite. Grrr this, grrr that, just shut up already. Don't let Nezuko get hurt. You're not that kind of person. Are you? You're a kind person, Tanjiro, go back to your old self. Inosuke struck Tanjiro's head repeatedly, enraging the demon, who let out a furious roar. He stomped his foot, cracking the ground beneath him. Zenitsu, Inosuke, and Gyu were flung in different directions, but only Nezuko clung to her brother. Spinal bones and strange whip-like black strands began to sprout from Tanjiro's back. He dropped to all fours with Nezuko dangling from him. His eyes had been white for some time, and his growls were constant. Don't give up, Ani-chan, Nezuko pleaded, clinging to Tanjiro's torso with her arms and legs. Stop. Tanjiro shouted, using his columns and whips to attack Zenitsu and the Kikuchi who were closest. It was stopped by Gyu's water breath, 4th style, tide strike. He's already bitten Nezuko. Gyu thought, agitated, still gripping his sword with his remaining hand. Now he knows what blood tastes like. There's no hope left, quick. We have to kill Tanjiro before he kills someone, but neither sunlight nor crimson Nichiren katanas will work against him. There's no way to kill him. Tanjiro opened his mouth and began to concentrate energy. A white ball began to form with static around him. Don't kill anyone. Ani-chan, I beg you. Nezuko cried desperately, putting her hand in front of Tanjiro's mouth, supposedly trying to stop the attack. Stop. The ball of energy grew larger and larger as the seconds passed. Its power was so great that it began to force its way through the earth without moving from its place. Ah. Nezuko-chan. Zenitsu cried desperately. No, stay away from him, Nezuko-chan. Tanjiro, please stop, I beg you. Tanjiro Inosuke managed to say from under some rubble. Why didn't he kill Nezuko even though he had food dripping with blood right in front of his eyes? Are you fighting too, Tanjiro? Gyu thought, dodging the black whips. If Tanjiro manages to regain his senses. But can that miracle even happen? Ishiro hid behind a building. He couldn't do anything because of the sun. Demonic blood techniques turned to dust and vanished in sunlight. Yushiro noticed Kanao, injured and dragging one foot, slowly walking toward Tanjiro. Tanjiro Nezuko-chan with tears in her eyes, poor things. Kanao takes a small wooden box out of her clothes. It's not broken, I can still use it, Kanao thought, remembering how Shinobu told her that this drug was capable of turning demons into humans. Without hesitation, Kanao, with one red eye, quickly approached Tanjiro. She was about to inject him with the contents of the syringe when Tanjiro raised an arm to strike her. He hit her shoulder, cutting it and causing her to drop the syringe. Kanao fell sideways to the ground. The essence of the medicine spread across the floor, releasing a light blue smoke that Tanjiro managed to inhale. This caused the demon to open her eyes wide, her heart to race, and her face to reflect sharp pain. In Tanjiro's mind. Ani-chan, come back, let's go home, Nezuko said, crying. I want to go back, I want to go home too, Nezuko, now I'm too tired. Ami-sama, please allow me to return home. All I want is to go back home to my little sister. I beg you. Going back won't make any difference, Muzan's voice spoke, his eyes fixed on Tanjiro's arm. Your entire family is dead, your house is filled with buried corpses, going back won't make any difference. The feelings and love from those happy days endure as long as Nezuko and I live, those bonds will never disappear, that's why I'll return. Those pretty words about feelings are meaningless, but if you so desperately want a life of memories with Nezuko, then turn her back into a demon, so you can both live forever. I couldn't do that to Nezuko again, you're a liar. What useless behavior. You're reeking of blood, aren't you? It's your Namaka's blood, and it's all your fault. Everyone resents you. No one wants you back. I want to apologize and stop hurting him, I will come back, I want to apologize. And what will you do then? Will you watch them die? When the time comes, we will all die. You can't avoid that. Of course it's possible. If they're all demons, they'll live together forever. You just have to accept my power. You'll see them every day, every night, and talk to them as you always have. Everyone's worried about me, I can smell it. Silence, you're the person who will inherit my will. Things like eternal life don't interest me in the slightest. I don't yearn for it, I don't want it. I want to go back to where everyone is. Damn trash, you're the only one who will survive. Even though so many people died. Muzan began to envelop Tanjiro. You just intend to survive carelessly, having lost nothing. You have to live, Tanjiro. You've become a unique creature, you've even conquered the sun. There is no one like that. Everyone would risk their life for the good of another, not for themselves. We all go through very painful feelings, very sad emotions, and for that very reason, we don't wish for other people to go through the same thing. Tanjiro, wait, please wait, I beg you. Inherit my will and my feelings. Only you can do it. You are the one chosen by God. Or don't you understand? You can do it. You can become the ultimate creature. You beg me? I'm not someone chosen by God, and you're just dying. Inherit your will and feelings. I'll never accept them, but your power. Tanjiro turns around, grabs Muzan's neck, and squeezes. It would be a waste, this is my territory, I'm the only one in charge here, and you were an idiot to come and offer me everything. Now I know what desperation can lead to. Wait, this isn't how it should be. I already told you, I'm the one who decides here. Tanjiro sank into the pink flesh, taking Muzan with him. Outside of Tanjiro's mind. Tanjiro closed his eyes for a second, returned the whips and pillars to his body, and when he opened them, the first thing he saw was Nezuko still clinging to him. As he straightened up, Nezuko let go and looked him in the eyes, crying. Ani-chan, is that you? I don't know, was all Tanjiro said, taking 2 steps back from Nezuko. He glanced sideways at Kanao. On one side was Zenitsu and on the other Inosuke, all of them in pain and with open wounds. In front of him was Gyu panting from exhaustion. I'm sorry, said Tanjiro, turning around and running off, disappearing into the forest behind the city. Ani-chan. Nezuko cried, then knelt down and wept. Ani-chan. Gyu lay sprawled on the ground, his gaze lost in thought. What had just happened? Was Tanjiro a demon now? The black-haired man wondered. The Kikuchi began tending to everyone. The air felt heavy. Nothing made sense. They had fought so hard for this. None of this should have happened. Yushiro was inside a house with a cat, tears streaming down his cheeks as he held a bra that belonged to Tomeo in his hand. I knew you weren't going to die, Tanjiro, but Tomeo, it's not over yet, the demon cried. Nori. We see Tanjiro running. He hadn't stopped since seeing his injured friends. He felt terrible. He had hurt them. Was that really him? He was whole again, without the wounds from the previous battle. The only changes were his now pink eyes, his sharp teeth, and his long nails. It was already midday. He had run from dawn until this hour. His breathing was ragged and sweat trickled down his back. He slowed down until he stopped completely and looked around, confused. Why? What happened? The red-haired boy wondered, holding his head. I was with Muzan and Nezuko. Nezuko was now human. Nezuko was human, how wonderful. When he calmed down and his breathing slowed, he sat on the ground next to a tree in the vast forest he had been running through. Tanjiro looked at his hands. They were whiter than usual, and his nails had dried blood on them. I am a demon, he said incredulously. Now I am a demon who was Muzan's last creation. That Muzan died, and I stole his power. With a tired expression, he looked ahead. There was a beautiful view of the forest, with its trees and the sun shining through their leaves. I am a demon who mastered the sun. I believe I am now the strongest demon, Tanjiro said, his eyes welling with tears. Muzan was right, I am the ultimate creature. Why did this have to happen to me? Tanjiro stared into space for hours, pondering everything that had happened, trying to find a solution to a problem that didn't yet have a question. He even considered ending his life to end it all right then and there, but his friends would feel worse if he did that, so he dismissed the idea. He had no idea what to do. He didn't want to go back. He couldn't bear to face his friends after hurting them so much. Going to Urakadaki wasn't an option. Tanjiro had become a demon. He would surely take his own life, just as he had promised Yubayashiki when he was still alive. Going to Sanjuro would only expose him, and he didn't dare set foot in the butterfly estate. At that moment, he had no one and nowhere to go. Hello, a girl's voice was heard behind Tanjiro. He became alarmed and turned around quickly. Are you okay? Huh? Why yes. Tanjiro's nose barely caught the scent of the girl, an instinct kicked in, his stomach growled and he started drooling, his eyes widening as he looked at the girl like food. What are you doing here all alone? Asked a little girl with brown hair and green eyes, wearing a worn light blue kimono. She was holding a bucket of water in her small hands. DRRR, and nothing, go away. Tanjiro refused to even think about eating the girl. He'd rather die than harm an innocent person, even though his stomach and his head were begging him to eat her. He needed food. Are you sure? If you want, you can come to my house and rest. You look hurt and my grandma is making soup for dinner, the little girl smiled kindly. And no, I'm fine, Tanjiro said, getting up and preparing to leave. Are you sick? You look very pale. My mom is sick, my dad is very sad, and my grandma has lots of medicine at home, the little girl said. If you need bandages or medicine, my grandma would be happy to give you some. I'm fine, Tanjiro said, digging 3 nails into his forearm to resist his instincts and quickly walking away from the girl. Luckily, the girl didn't follow him. Tanjiro walked until he reached the foot of a mountain, entered a cave he found, and sat down on the dirt floor. He stopped clutching his arm, which healed instantly. Tanjiro sighed. What do I do now? The Redeed whispered. A voice was heard from a little further inside the cave. Who's there? Tanjiro asked, becoming alert. You. I knew something had happened, but I didn't think it would be this amazing. An almost identical copy of the previous girl, but smaller, peeked out from the darkness of the cave. She was a demon, with black hair, powerful green eyes, and a cat-like appearance. She also had white skin and wore a white dress, torn and stained with blood in places. Are you a demon? Tanjiro asked, incredulous. Of course, for about 4 years now. You have Muzan's blood, are you the new ruler of the demons? The girl smiled broadly without moving from the shadow cast by the cave. What are you talking about? Tanjiro tried to calm himself down. Luckily, since she was a demon, she wasn't affected by the instinct to eat humans. This morning, as soon as the sun rose, we demons felt Muzan dying. In an instant, he died, and all the demons exploded, except for those of us who took advantage of his weakness and freed ourselves from his curse, like me, the girl explained, crawling on all fours in the shade. But then we got the curse back. I thought Muzan wasn't dead yet, but he wasn't. He gave the throne to someone else. When Muzan died, did other demons explode? Yeah, it was like the last thing he did before he died. I had 2 companions, the girl said, tossing the slowly turning to ash remains of demons near Tanjiro. I didn't like them. I was the first to arrive at this cave, but if I refused to let them stay, they would have killed me, so I left them. Do you know how you became a demon? Tanjiro asked. The question was bothering him. This girl really looked a lot like the one who had tried to help him recently, only this one looked about 5 years old and the other was about 9 or 10. No demon remembers their past, I'm no exception, but sometimes I have small memories, like when I play with a girl who looks like me, only with brown hair, or when I cry and a woman comes and hugs me, or when a man gives me a rag doll, etc. the girl said dejectedly. I'd like to know who they are. Silence reigned in the place for quite some time. Tanjiro didn't know what to do with that demon girl. He felt a strong urge to help her, but he didn't know how. The silence was broken when Tanjiro's stomach growled loudly. He clutched his abdomen, trying to quiet it. Are you hungry? The girl asked, venturing a little way into the cave and returning with a human arm. Tanjiro understood, making a face of disgust. Here, I wanted to eat it later, but you seem very hungry. Eat. Not me, I can't eat that, Tanjiro said, covering his mouth. His nose appreciated the smell, but his human senses told him to stop. What do you want? Cook it. Eat it like this, it's fresh. The girl demanded. Tanjiro took her arm suspiciously. His stomach began to rumble with hunger, and his nose already liked the smell of blood, but his common sense remained. Even so, if he didn't eat, he would die of a stomachache. Although she might be able to live without eating humans like Nezuko, she would have to find a way to fall asleep, and at this moment her body seemed to have no knowledge of the word. Moreover, her stomach growled so loudly that she felt it all the way to her throat. Tanjiro brought the arm of the unknown, now dead person to his mouth, ready to take a bite at the cost of his principles, but he was too hungry. Come on, it's going to rot if you just look at it, the girl insisted. Take off the skin if it disgusts you so much, just eat the meat. Tanjiro obeyed. Using a fingernail as if it were a knife, he cut the skin into a rectangle. He peeled it off and discarded the piece, gazing at the now juicy meat beneath. He took a bite and, with his new teeth, managed to remove a piece of flesh, which he barely chewed before snatching it up again. His eyes gleamed slightly as he continued eating until only the bones and skin of the arm remained. When he finished, he sighed contentedly, his stomach full, though he felt a deep sense of guilt and shame toward himself. See, it wasn't so bad, and now you look better, the happy girl said. Now that I think about it, what's your name? Tanjiro asked, wiping the blood from his mouth. My name is Nori, and you? Asked the now-named girl as she walked in circles through the shadows. Kamado Tanjiro, he gave the girl one of his familiar smiles. Well, then you'll be Tanjiro-sama now, Nori smiled. That's not necessary, just call me Tanjiro, Tanjiro said kindly. Nope, you'll be Tanjiro-sama, said the girl, moving deeper into the shade as sunset approached, and some rays of sunlight managed to enter the cave, due to the sun's position. Tanjiro chuckled softly, gazing at the sunset. The day had passed quickly, considering how much he'd been thinking. The sun gave the trees a more vibrant and beautiful color, and he savored this moment of calm. You're a demon, why aren't you burning? Nori asked, watching from the shadows as the sun's rays struck Tanjiro. Well, I'm a different kind of demon. I was able to control the sun, Tanjiro explained, his eyes filled with pain as he recalled what had happened that morning. It doesn't affect me. You truly deserve to be the new demon king, let me follow you. Nori pleaded, clasping her hands together and giving her puppy dog eyes. Follow me? But I don't even know what to do with my life at this point. I heard everyone and ran away because I didn't understand the situation. Now, if I go back, they'll probably want to kill me or capture me, Tanjiro said worriedly. And I have no one. Besides, if I see them, I might want to eat them. You barely become a demon and your life is already a mess. I think it would have been good if you'd lost your memories, Nori said, lying on the floor and looking up. I wouldn't want to forget them. They're my family, my friends, my comrades, and acquaintances whom I cherish dearly. As Tanjiro spoke, the sun began to set and Nori slowly approached. But I feel that if I get closer, I'll want to kill them. Muzan confused my mind before he died. He gave me a goal that I absolutely refused to fulfill. To kill humans and spread the demons. What an idiot, I'm alone. You're not alone. You have your memories and a new, loyal friend who will accompany you as you see what you do with your new life. The sun set and Nori reached Tanjiro. She smiled at him, calming him as he was about to cry again. Thank you Nori-chan, I really appreciate it, Tanjiro smiled, sounding calmer. Come on, when I can go out I want to show you something that will definitely lift your spirits, I promise, Nori said excitedly. They talked for a while. Tanjiro asked Nori about her past and the memories she had. Then he pieced together a story. Nori and the girl from the forest who tried to help her were twin sisters. They lived with their parents and grandmother. When they were both 5 years old, Muzan turned Nori into a demon. Since she didn't know about her past, she never returned home. Her sister continued to grow up, while Nori, being a demon, remained with the appearance of a 5-year-old girl. Because Nori could only go out at night, she never saw her sister or any of the family members who were surely at home after dark. Tanjiro didn't tell Nori about his theory. It would be too hard for her, as she would surely want to see her family again and find that they had all lived without her. So he remained silent and preferred to tell her when the time was right. Come on, come on. Nori pulled Tanjiro's hand as they climbed the mountain. It was already night and Nori was dragging Tanjiro to that place that she thought would make him feel better. I'm coming, Tanjiro laughed at Nori's childish behavior. I spend almost the entire night here until I have to go get food, Nori explained as she climbed the mountain. The people who live in a nearby village have a prison. I don't like eating innocent people, so to speak. The prison guards leave a cell open so I can go in and get my food. It's like a truce. I don't eat them all, but they give me a sacrifice. I don't think that's the best idea I've ever heard, Tanjiro said, confused by Nori's method of getting food. And we're here. Nori smiled happily. At the top of the mountain, there was a view of a village, surely the one Nori was talking about. It was lit by candles and torches, and some people could be seen walking. The moon made the night even more beautiful. Isn't it beautiful? Nori jumped for joy. It is very beautiful, everything seems completely serene. Nori was right, that sight calmed the soul. People are happy and calm, it feels good. Oh look. Nori points to a spot in the village. There's the old man. Which old man? Tanjiro asked. He's an old man who always goes out at dawn and comes back at night. I think he lives alone. He carries a basket on his back and puts fish in it that he catches in a river around here, Nori explained, following the old man as he walked slowly. It's probably the only way to earn money or something to eat, Tanjiro thought aloud, also watching the old man walk by. I don't know, but I like her a lot. Nori sat down on the grass and continued looking at the town. Nori-chan, you're not like the other demons. I feel like you're more civilized or something. Tanjiro sat down next to Nori. I have noticed that, though. When I lived with those two demons, all they thought about was eating and getting stronger. I just want to eat to survive and look at humans. I think they're very funny creatures, Nori said, smiling, although some of them are a bit idiotic. You're the first demon I've seen who was transformed without any negative emotion involved, Tanjiro said, satisfied that not everyone was the same. The demons Muzan created were influenced by him, by his feelings of revenge or pain. I think I was a sleeper experiencing some other emotion when I transformed because I don't feel the need to go and kill everyone to become stronger, Nori explained calmly. You have a very strong and special mindset. If you were human, you'd surely be a great girl when you grow up, Tanjiro smiled happily. Nori looked at him and smiled back. The two of them stared at the town for hours, enjoying the sound of the wind against the trees and watching as the lights in the houses gradually went out. When they were all finally off, Nori spoke. Alright, it's time to go get breakfast. Do you want to come with me or wait for me? The dark-haired girl asked, getting up and dusting off her dress. I'll go with you, the two said, and they went down the mountain. They walked around the outskirts of the town until they found a house, which had a sign that said jail, that was noticeably more secure, but the front door was open. I told you, they always leave the door open for me, the girl smiled victoriously. Upon entering, there was a corridor with several cells on either side. Men were sleeping inside. Nori went to the last cell in the corridor, where only one man was asleep. Its door was open. Nori entered and, with her fingernails, severed his head in one swift motion. Tanjiro felt a strange sensation within him. It was wrong, taking a life, but it wasn't much different from what humans did to animals. It was the food chain, after all. I like that they don't suffer too much, Nori said, taking the body and starting to drag it out of the place. Tanjiro helped her, they returned to the cave and sat outside. What do you want? Arm, leg, intestines, liver, neck. I recommend the heart, it's juicy, Nori said, beginning to open the man's chest, although the ribs are good too. An arm again. I don't think I'll ever get used to eating humans. Tanjiro sighed in defeat. He truly didn't know what to do. As you wish, Nori said, cutting off an arm and giving it to Tanjiro, who, like the one he had eaten earlier, peeled off the skin. Nori ate the rest, keeping only the legs. She said they were for later and hid them inside the cave. She left the man's clothes near the village, saying there was a boy who took them and sold them. She took the bones to the other side of the river, where there was a very deep hole in the ground, and threw the bones in. It's almost dawn, you have to go back to the cave, Tanjiro warned, worried. Yes, listen Tanjiro-sama, if you want you can go to the village, I think it would do you good to walk and clear your mind, Nori suggested, returning with Tanjiro to the cave. I honestly don't know. My clothes are stained with blood, and I don't know if I'm ready to see humans yet. I'm afraid I'll want to eat them. Tanjiro hugged himself. I recommend it, walking is good for you, try to figure out what you'll do with your life now, and keep many things in mind, you'll have a long life. Nori went deep into the small cave. Tanjiro sighed and went back to the river to at least clean off the blood. He felt terrible because his clothes were stained not only with his own blood, but also with that of his sister and friends. He was worried. Were they alright? How were their injuries? Were the swordsman and Kikuchi safe? He thought for a second about going back, but he felt he couldn't, as if his brain were telling him that the farther away he was, the better it would be for everyone. He was afraid to go back, and that's why he was confused. One part of him said, go, hide, and don't show your face to the world for any reason. Another part said, do something, damn it, do whatever your damn heart wants. And yet another said, go back home, you'll be at peace there. That made him chuckle a little because he felt like those voices were his friends, giving him advice. The meeting. Tanjiro was outside the village, hidden at the top of a tree, watching people pass by. He wanted to test if he could control his insatiable hunger instincts as a novice demon. Luckily, he could, but now he had a problem. He looked like a child buying bread alone for the first time. He was dying of insecurity. He didn't want to get out of control. He suddenly felt afraid to talk to people and wasn't sure if he really wanted to walk like Nori said, but his thoughts were interrupted when a familiar voice alerted him. Hello again. There, on the ground, was the girl who had tried to help him the day before, wearing the same kimono and carrying an old basket on her back. Hello, Tanjiro greeted nervously, almost falling out of the tree. What are you doing up there? Asked the curious girl. I was looking for ants. Tanjiro mentally slapped himself for such a beautiful lie. He really didn't know how to lie. Ants? What for? Asked the now confused girl. It doesn't matter, Tanjiro said, climbing down from the tree. What are you carrying in the basket? A river rocks. A man from the village is going to pay me for them. He wants to put them at his entrance, the girl said, beaming with happiness. Can I help you? It looks heavy, Tanjiro offered kindly. No, I have to get stronger, otherwise my mom would be sad, the girl smiled. You have a great spirit, but I'd feel bad if you carried that burden alone, Tanjiro insisted again. Okay, the girl gave her the basket, which was heavy, and what's your name? My name is Komodo Tanjiro. I'm sorry for disappearing like that yesterday, but I had a problem, the red-haired boy apologized, starting to walk with the girl. It doesn't matter, I knew I'd find you again today, I had a feeling, the girl smiled, guiding Tanjiro through the village. My name is Sayumi. You have a lovely name, Sayumi-san, Tanjiro smiled. Thank you, my mother named me after her. She also named my sister a very pretty one, her name was Saiko. Sayumi's happy aura noticeably dipped. Don't be sad, your smile brought me happiness, please smile again, Tanjiro pleaded, trying to cheer the girl up. Yes, Sayumi rubbed her eyes and then gave Tanjiro a big smile. Thank you. It's just that my sister disappeared when I was 5 years old, that's why my mother got sick, my father isn't the same anymore, and my grandmother sometimes cries at night. That shows me you're a great person. No matter what happens, you always give them a big smile, and I assure you they love seeing you smile, Tanjiro said with a feeling of both happiness and understanding. That's what my grandmother tells me, she loves to smile. Ah, it's here. Sayumi stopped in front of a rustic house that had a small front yard. A man came out and paid Sayumi for more river rocks. The girl was very happy because he gave her a couple of coins as a tip. Afterwards, Tanjiro and Sayumi set off to return to Sayumi's house, although Tanjiro was only accompanying her. Then I woke up outside the futon, Sayumi finished, laughing. She had been telling Tanjiro stories the whole way. That's really funny, Tanjiro laughed when he realized they were already in front of a cabin. It was a bit far from the village, it was about a 10-minute walk. I'd like you to meet my family, Sayumi requested. I wouldn't want to intrude on your house, Tanjiro refused. You're not bothering me, come on, Sayumi said, dragging Tanjiro inside the cabin without letting him speak. I'm here. Oh, Sayumi, it's so good you're here, said an old woman in a white kimono with a floral print, emerging from what appeared to be the kitchen. Who is your friend? Nice to meet you, my name is Komodo Tanjiro, he said, bowing to the old woman. He's the boy I told you about yesterday, Grandma. He helped me carry the stones today, Sayumi said, going into what appeared to be the living dining room. There, a woman sat on a futon, staring into space. Mom. Look, he's the boy I told you about. Psycho? The woman asked, her face pale and almost lifeless, her eyes lacking any sparkle. No, Mom, I'm Sayumi, she tried to smile for her mother, but inside she felt bad. I brought a friend. Nice to meet you, ma'am, I'm Komodo Tanjiro, he greeted in the same way. Their clothes are very dirty, son. They're torn and full of holes. Let me give you a kimono that belonged to my son. It doesn't fit him anymore, but I'm sure it will fit you, the old woman said kindly. No need, I'm fine like this, Tanjiro tried to refuse. I won't take no for an answer, wait here, I'll be right back, the old woman said, leaving the room. Mom, hasn't Dad arrived yet? Sayumi asked, adjusting her mother's blankets to keep her warm. No, I think she went to get firewood, Sayumi's mother said weakly and slowly. Well, rest a bit, Grandma's probably made a delicious lunch, Sayumi smiled, got up, and went to Tanjiro. My father will be here later, I want you to meet him. He tells great stories. Your family is very nice, Sayumi-san, just as you described them, Tanjiro smiled. The grandmother arrived and made Tanjiro try on that black and red kimono. It looks great on you, please keep it, I insist, said the kind old woman sitting with Sayumi, drinking tea. Thank you very much, Tanjiro accepted, sitting down at the table. I'm back. A man's voice called from outside the cabin. Dad. Sayumi ran off in search of her father. As the two entered, Sayumi could be seen with an older man. Her clothes were somewhat dirty, her hair was disheveled, and although her gaze was tired, she had a smile. "Look, Dad, this is Komodo Tanjiro, the boy I told you about yesterday," Sayumi smiled. "Oh, you have my old kimono, it looks great on you," the man said with a smile. "Thank you, sir," Tanjiro said gratefully. He spent the time talking with the family until midday, when Tanjiro had to leave, declining the family's offer of lunch. He returned to the cave and found Nori intently examining an old rag doll. "I'm back," Tanjiro said, introducing himself. "It's about time, I was starting to get bored." Nori looked closely at Tanjiro and froze. "Where did you get that kimono?" "The family gave it to me. Yesterday, before coming here, I met a girl. I saw her today and she invited me to her house, although I had to leave because they were going to have lunch," Tanjiro summarized. He had seen Nori's behavior, and that gave him the idea to help her recover her memories, so perhaps that family could be reunited. "Does it seem familiar to you?" "A little, but I don't know where it's from. Being with you is definitely making me insecure." Nori went back into the back of the cave. Tanjiro considered bringing Sayumi to the cave, but he considered the fact that it would surely be a huge blow to both Nori and Sayumi, not to mention the rest of their family, but if this wasn't the right time, it never would be. "I'll come back later," Tanjiro announced with a smile. "Do whatever you want, but be back before sunset or I'll eat your leg," Nori said. Tanjiro chuckled a little before continuing on his way back to Sayumi's house. First he was going to bring Sayumi. He still didn't have 100% confidence in the grandmother or the father for them to dare to follow Tanjiro to the foot of the mountain just like that. The mother couldn't even walk that distance, so he left her for last. Besides, given her condition, who knew what would happen to her when she saw her daughter after 4 years? "I waited about half an hour before returning to the Kimura family's cabin. I didn't want to interrupt them in the middle of lunch. When I arrived, I was greeted kindly again." Tanjiro had to refuse all the food they offered him, which didn't please the grandmother much. She said that if he didn't eat, he would end up being a dwarf. "Hey Sayumi, honey, can you go to the river for some water? I need to clean your mother," asked the grandmother with a kind smile. "Of course, Grandma," Sayumi smiled, radiating the joy of helping her family. "I want to go with you," Tanjiro offered, standing up. "If you want," Sayumi agreed. The two left the cabin, saying they would return later, and headed towards the river. "Hey Sayumi-san, what was it like when your sister Saiko disappeared?" Tanjiro tried to bring up the subject little by little. "I don't remember much, I think it was winter. My last memory of her is us playing with our dolls by the fire. Our father was chopping wood outside. She said she was going to look for him because she didn't like him being out in the cold, but she never came back." Sayumi recounted this with a hint of pain. "Dad came back a while later and asked me where Saiko was. I told him I had gone out to look for her, and then everyone panicked. Mom and Dad went out to look for her, and I stayed with Grandma at home. They both came back in the early morning without her. Many people in the village also helped search, but there was nothing. After that, they just hoped to find her body when the snow melted. I'm sorry for making you remember all that, Sayumi-san, but I know your sister would be proud of you. You've been a good girl, polite and hardworking." Tanjiro smiled, giving Sayumi strength, who smiled back. "But what would you do if your sister were alive?" "I always hoped she was alive, I feel like she really is, but I know it's not possible," Sayumi said, stopping because they had already reached the river. "And would you believe me if I told you she's alive?" Tanjiro looked at the look of pure bewilderment on Sayumi's face. "Did you bring my sister back from the dead or what?" Sayumi asked, bewildered. No, but she is alive," Tanjiro affirmed, although she is not in a certain way the same. "Take me to her." Sayumi rushed towards Tanjiro. "I want to see my sister. I want to know what happened to her." Calm down, I can take you to her, but you have to keep in mind that she's a demon." He said it just like that. There was no subtle way to say that a relative who had been missing was now a man-eating demon, and if there was one, Tanjiro hadn't thought of it. A demon? An Oni? Sayumi stared into space for a few seconds, lost in thought. Why didn't he come home? When humans become demons, they forget all their memories as humans, unless someone helps them remember, although the times I've seen it, they end up being killed, Tanjiro explained. "But I'm hoping that if Nori-chan sees you, she'll remember everything." "Nori-chan? I don't care, take me with her," Sayumi demanded. "Okay, I'll take you, but don't make her leave the cave, the sun could kill her, and go slowly, she doesn't remember you," Tanjiro said as Sayumi dragged him deeper into the forest, leaving the bucket lying there. Tanjiro led her to the foot of the mountain, where Sayumi looked all around for her sister. "Remember, go slowly and don't disturb her," Tanjiro whispered as he approached the cave. "Nori-chan, I'm here." "It's very late, I ate your part," Nori said. Sayumi recognized her voice and began to tear up. "You mean I brought someone who wants to see you?" Tanjiro peeked his head out of the cave, seeing Nori lying on the ground face up. "Did you bring someone?" Is it food or a demon? Nori asked, looking at Tanjiro. Her name is Kimura Sayumi and she says she knows you, Tanjiro said, now seeing how the brunette was standing motionless in her place. Kimura Sayumi. Nori clutched her head in pain. Psycho Sayumi called from outside, paralyzing Nori's psycho. She peeked out of the cave and saw the brunette crying at the side of her. Kimura Sayumi, do I know you? Nori was genuinely confused. Psycho. You're alive. Sayumi went into the cave and hugged Nori while crying. Nori's head clicked. All her memories, moments, her entire human life had flooded back into her mind. Tears streamed from her eyes and a feeling of both pain and happiness washed over her. She returned her sister's embrace, sobbing even harder. Tanjiro stayed outside, waiting for them both to calm down. About 10 minutes later, the two stopped crying and began asking each other questions, such as, what did you do? How are you? How are mom and dad? Trying to make up for lost time in a conversation that was sure to last all night, unless Tanjiro had to interrupt them because the sun was about to set and Sayumi needed to go home. Girls, it's getting dark, Tanjiro warned. That's right. I have to go home, Sayumi said, starting to leave the cave. Sayu, are you coming tomorrow? Nori asked, using the nickname she gave her sister, as she poked her head out of the cave. Of course, we have to talk a lot, Sayumi smiled, giving her sister another hug before leaving the cave. We have to think about how to tell mom, dad, and grandma that you're still alive and have turned into a demon. They'll have to say it very carefully, mainly because of their mother and grandmother, Tanjiro thought aloud. Oh. Right, here, Sayumi. Tanjiro presented Sayumi with a lantana flower crown, its petals red and yellow. It was beautifully crafted and looked as though it would last forever. It's like an excuse for why you took so long, you can tell them I did this for you, Tanjiro smiled. It's so cute. Thank you, Tanjiro-kun. Sayumi exclaimed energetically. And me? Nori asked, her face serious and somewhat offended. I also made you a Nori-chan, Tanjiro said, handing her a crown of lantana flowers, but these had purple and yellow petals. You'd better, Nori said, taking the crown and putting it on, before going back into the cave. I have to go now, see you tomorrow Tanjiro-san, Sayumi said, waving goodbye. See you tomorrow Sai. Goodbye Sayonori said, seemingly dejected, as her sister left. Don't worry, Nori-chan, he'll be back tomorrow, Tanjiro reassured her as he entered the cave. It's just I lost so much time, my parents, my family, I was away from them for so long, Nori looked increasingly dejected. Don't worry, I know your family will be very happy to see you, and don't worry about the lost time, I know you'll make it all up to you. Tanjiro's smile and words greatly reassured the black-haired girl. Thank you, Tanjiro-sama, you're the best demon king, Nori smiled broadly. I wonder if I'll have any responsibilities as the Demon King, Tanjiro wondered, because, well, Muzan only encouraged them to become stronger by eating humans. You could make the other demons stop eating so many humans. You don't need to be strong to be part of the moons anymore, Nori suggested. Tanjiro thought for a moment. He had great power and was practically very difficult to defeat, and he could turn humans into demons. Then he had an idea quite far-fetched, but at this moment, with his power, not impossible. And what if it helped humans live a little longer? Tanjiro said, still thinking, his voice a little quiet. Turning humans into demons so they can live longer. That would be a little, I don't know, dangerous. Nori looked at Tanjiro realistically. Not if I decide correctly. Only those who deserve to live a little longer with their families will be able to become demons, and obviously, they'll have their conditions. Tanjiro was still thinking about that idea, so it wasn't 100% accepted. Those who know the person will be able to recover their memories very quickly when they become a demon. But you're forgetting that demons need to eat humans to live, Nori said, seeing Tanjiro's obvious point. Not necessarily, they can also live on blood. I knew 2 demons who lived that way, Tanjiro said, recalling the past. Living on blood alone wouldn't be so bad, said a thoughtful Nori. Would you do it? Would you live on blood alone? Tanjiro asked. I could, but there aren't many humans who say sure, I'll give you my blood, Nori said, but a rumbling stomach surprised her. And since I don't have a human who will give me their blood, I'll go to jail for our breakfast. Nori left the cave, and Tanjiro, thinking this, stayed behind. The idea of transforming humans with incurable diseases or those on the verge of death into demons sounded good. It would be a way to use their power for good. But it would have to be secret. Demon slayers still existed. He could create a kind of secret village, like the village of the Nichiren swordsmiths, but where would he put it? It would have to be a secluded place, difficult yet easy to reach, but invisible or unimaginable to human eyes. Besides, it had to have very little sunlight. Under a mountain, Tanjiro suddenly said. That was perfect. Beneath a mountain, they would be perfectly hidden, and to the demon's advantage, there wouldn't be a sliver of sunlight. He could even build a cave himself, supported by pillars with several hidden entrances and exits on different sides. It would be large enough to build houses inside. It would be a place where demons and humans could live peacefully. With Tanjiro nearby, the demons wouldn't attack humans, and the demons would protect them. It was a fair deal. I'll have to choose carefully who deserves to become a demon. Several could take advantage of the power and get out of control, Tanjiro said, planning everything. But I also have to watch out for the demon slayers. They might find a demon and kill it just because it's a demon. It was strange now that he noticed it, Tanjiro had become the thing he tried to destroy, the world had turned upside down, Nezuko was now human and Tanjiro a demon, Zenitsu was less fearful, and Inosuke was so scared he cried, Kanao was already expressing what she wanted better, many of his friends had died, and others surely already had a different future in mind. And Tanjiro watched as his new friend Nori, with a big smile, carried on her back the body of a headless man, who would be her breakfast. He would never get used to eating humans. Tragedy. It was already daytime. Tanjiro was sitting outside the cave thinking about his new motive for the future. Nori was inside, dying of boredom as always, waiting for her sister to arrive as she had promised. Tanjiro-san. Sigh. Sayumi came running through the forest towards the cave, still wearing the flower crown Tanjiro made for her yesterday. Hello Sayumi-san, Tanjiro smiled at her when he arrived. Sayu. Nori was heard shouting. Hi Sai, look. I brought you grandma's soup, Sayumi said, showing a box wrapped in a cloth. You liked it a lot, and when I saw there was some left over from yesterday's dinner, I decided to bring you some. Sayu, that's very sweet of you, but I can't eat that. Nori peeked her head out of the cave. She too was wearing Tanjiro's flower crown. What? Why not? Sayumi asked, becoming increasingly discouraged. It's just that, Sayumi-san, Tanjiro said nervously, demons don't eat food like humans. I know a little about demons and that they kill humans, but I don't know what they eat, Sayumi said thoughtfully, sitting down in front of the cave. Well, Sayu, demons don't eat very common things, Nori tried to find the right words so as not to scare her sister, we don't eat meat, grains, fruit, or anything else that humans do. But if they don't eat any of those things, what do they eat? Sayumi asked, even more confused. Sayumi-san, demons eat humans, Tanjiro said. There was no gentle way to say this. Humans? Sayumi stared incredulously at Tanjiro, whom she could see best. Do you both eat humans? It's the only thing we demons can eat to live, but Tanjiro-san is considering that we could live on blood alone, not meat, Nori said quickly, so as not to shock her sister, that way we wouldn't have to, kill. They kill humans. Sayumi exclaimed. Who do they feed on? Are they from this village? They're people from the prison. Nori is always given an open cell to take one person each night, Tanjiro explained. If it weren't for that, Nori would have surely devoured half the village by now. Sayumi remained silent for what seemed like an eternity to Tanjiro and Nori. For a moment, they thought she would run out and tell half the village that there were two demons outside, but then Sayumi rolled up her sleeve and extended her arm. I don't want them to keep eating humans. If they can live on blood alone, then take mine. A confident Sayumi declared. Sayumi-san, that's nice of you, but I can't accept your blood. If you had to feed both of us, you could get hurt, Tanjiro said, somewhat agitated. Nori stared wide-eyed with a hint of fear. I won't take your blood either, I absolutely refuse, I won't take my younger sister's blood, Nori complained. But I can't allow them to continue taking human lives, Sayumi said, sounding a little annoyed. Their lives, the world isn't going to be depressed over one or two lives that will reincarnate anyway, that's how overpopulation will occur, Nori said, flatly denying her sister's objection, before going deeper into the cave. But eating humans is wrong. Sayumi got angry. I know, before I became a demon I was a demon slayer, but look at me now, I'm a demon myself. I literally broke my principles, Tanjiro said, sounding depressed and a little annoyed. That doesn't change the fact that they killed and even ate people, Sayumi said, annoyed with her sister and new friend, though she couldn't really blame them. They were surviving. It's the circle of life, the strong eat the weak, it's the same as killing a chicken for dinner, Nori said. She could hear herself eating something, and much to her sister's dismay, she now knew that. I'll be back this afternoon, and I hope you've come up with something good to stop eating humans. Sayumi stood up and left, stomping her feet. She was somewhat annoyed. Nori-chan, Sayumi-san is scary when she gets angry, Tanjiro said, trembling slightly. Why do you think I'm hiding in here? Nori said rationally. And I'm supposed to be the oldest. Should we tell her about the idea for the hidden village? Tanjiro asked, watching where the brunette had gone. He asked for an idea to stop us killing humans, and that's the only idea we have. I think it's obvious what we have to do. Nori sounded as if she were explaining to Tanjiro why he shouldn't put his hand near the fire. Time passed, and Tanjiro didn't move from his spot, nor did he have any reason to. Nori did what she always did. wallow in boredom inside the cave until sunset. About 2 hours after lunch, Sayumi arrived in her signature kimono, which seemed to be the only one she owned. "So? Anything good to say?" Sayumi asked, sitting down on the floor and staring intently at Tanjiro. Tanjiro had an idea Nori was clever and hid in the cave, even though she knew her sister could easily get in, but first she had to get past Tanjiro, and that would give her time to escape in case of any circumstance. "Well, I don't know if you know, but above all demons there's something like a king or leader who is more powerful than the other demons, can turn humans into demons, and has great power over any race," Tanjiro explained under Sayumi's tense and tormented gaze. "The thing is, I'm that demon. Any other demon right now would be like an annoying spider to me. I'm the second demon capable of going out in the sun without dying, and my power is limitless. I could kill a pillar with a single move and he wouldn't even notice. Although I must say I'm impressed, you still haven't answered my question about how to stop them from eating humans," Sayumi said with a serious expression. "That's my point, you see, if a human becomes a demon, they can live for many, many years. That's why Nori-chan looks like a 5-year-old even though she's 9, Tanjiro explained, as best he could so Sayumi would understand his point. Becoming a demon can save you from dying from a deadly disease or from being on the brink of death. My plan is to build a secret village where humans and demons can live together, helping each other. However, only those who deserve to live will be turned into demons. I need to know that they won't abuse the power I'll give them." "And why a secret village?" Sayumi asked, confused. "As for the demon hunters, you probably haven't heard of them, there aren't always demons around here besides me," Nori said, "and as their name suggests, they hunt demons. Encountering one stronger than you is your immediate doom." "I see. And do you think, Tanjiro-san, that the humans who lived alongside the demons will give their blood?" Sayumi thought aloud. "Well, yes, most likely those who will live there will be families. They'll donate blood. A demon only needs 1 cup a day to live, some perhaps even less," Tanjiro said. "I think I know where we can build the village, and there are thousands of people to help. Besides, it's better if the humans donate their blood willingly rather than being killed. That's my goal." "I like the idea, it seems you've given it a lot of thought," Sayumi agreed, reassuring the demons. "Only you need some kind of order, some sort of leaders, guardians, or watchmen over the demons. I know most of them aren't very peaceful." "That's true, Tanjiro-sama. Some demons, with your persuasive skills, might accept your proposal and follow you, but mostly those who followed Muzan will want to defeat you to become the new kings," Nori said, peeking her head out in concern. "Those who resist will have to die. They've surely already tasted meat and intend to keep eating to grow stronger. They're the ones who can't go on living," Tanjiro said decisively. He didn't want to do it, but it was necessary. "It's cruel, but basically fair," Sayumi sighed. "I wanted to prevent deaths, but those demons have already killed many, and they deserve to rest." "But Sayu, am I going to die too?" Nori asked, her voice filled with sorrow. No, Nori-chan, I wouldn't kill you. You're a good demon, even though you ate people for a long time, but you can fix that," Tanjiro said, thinking of something new. "I know you're right, Sayumi-san, I need guardians for the demons. Even though they're powerful beings, they can get out of control, even me." "What do you have in mind?" Sayumi asked, intrigued. "Like the demon moons, though I'm not going to call them that. What would be good?" Tanjiro thought. "I know, demon flowers." "Devil flowers?" Nori asked, confused. "Is that the best you could come up with?" "I like it." Sayumi smiled, giving Tanjiro strength after Nori's comment. "It's going to be a group of demons chosen by me to control, watch over, and protect the other demons," Tanjiro said, then fixed his eyes on Nori. "Do you want to participate, Nori-chan?" "Me? But I'm not strong. Didn't I already tell you how those 2 demons who lived with me almost killed me?" Nori said realistically. "But I can make you strong, look Sayumi-san, move away from the cave and stand in the sunlight that's still there," Tanjiro ordered. Sayumi obeyed, just as confused as her sister. "Muzan used to do this, but now I'll do it for something good. Nori, hold out your hands." Tanjiro cut his own veins with his fingernails, letting jets of blood fall into Nori's hands, who watched with wide eyes as this unique elixir for demons was revealed. The wound closed on its own. "Go ahead, enjoy yourself," Tanjiro smiled. Nori didn't leave a single drop of blood, then she began to grunt and groan, writhing on the ground. "What's wrong with Sai?" Sayumi asked, worried about her sister who was still behaving like a wild animal. "He's absorbing the power boost I gave him, he'll be fine in a few seconds," Tanjiro explained quickly and simply, walking away from the cave. The grunts and groans continued until Nori's breathing calmed down. "How are you feeling?" Tanjiro asked after a minute. "It's incredible, Tanjiro-sama." Nori felt like she could split a mountain in half. "Don't try to go out in the sun. I still need to know to what extent my blood makes demons evolve," Tanjiro said, smiling. Great, we have a plan that solves our problems and will also help many people, Sayumi said, satisfied. We just need to tell my parents that Sai is still alive. Can that be tomorrow? I'm still not ready to see them after so long, Nori said, looking downcast. Of course, tomorrow it is. I'm going to prepare them somewhat mentally so the blow isn't so hard, Sayumi smiled cheerfully. I have to go, I'll be back tomorrow after sunset. Go on, Sayumi-san, Nori-chan will be fine, Tanjiro said, giving his cheerful and contagious smile. Okay, see you tomorrow. Sayumi stood up and dusted off her clothes. Goodbye Sayu, Nori said, smiling. Sayumi left the demons behind. They talked amongst themselves, plotting about the demon flowers. They wanted to form a strong and kind-hearted group, perhaps even protecting more than just the village. They could also protect other humans from natural disasters or, at some point, from some very powerful being, though only time would tell, and only if there were a being more powerful than the demons. Well then, that would be Lantana Colorado Columbine, Bleeding Heart, Indian Canna, Convolvulus Tricolor, Cherry Blossoms, Hydrangea, Lily of the Valley, Rudbeckia, and Orchids. Tanjiro listed, recalling types of flowers he liked. Wow, you really know a lot about flowers, Nori said, impressed. I lived on a farm for a long time, I learned many things there, I also know about different types of butterflies and medicines. Tanjiro smiled as he remembered all that, although he felt somewhat depressed. Hey Tanjiro-sama, you remember your past with a strange feeling. What happened before you got here? Nori ventured to ask. She'd wanted to know for a long time why the Redeed remembered the past with such sadness. I just want to go home, Nori-chan, to be with my sister and my friends. I left without warning or saying goodbye. I know I was upset, but my sister's expression, the wounds I inflicted on my friends when they tried to stop me, all I wanted was to run away. Tanjiro had begun to cry. He wanted to go back, to run and return to hug his sister, who was now human. Do you feel guilty in any way? Nori asked. I know I shouldn't, but I still feel like all of this, everything that happened to me, everything that happened to everyone, was just my fault. The tears that were falling were immediately wiped away. If Inosuke were here, he'd surely tell me I'm weak for crying, Zenitsu would be crying with me, and Izuku would hug me. Nori reached out to touch Tanjiro's shoulder to calm him down, and when she did, she got sunburned, but she did touch Tanjiro's shoulder. Nori-chan. Tanjiro exclaimed, startled, and pushed Nori into the cave. Don't expose yourself to the sun, are you hurt? I'm fine, Nori's hand began to heal, but I wanted to help you. Don't worry, Nori-chan, everything will work out eventually. I just have to wait and stop feeling guilty. Tanjiro gave Nori a calm smile. Besides, it's almost sunset, Sayumi-sen will be here soon, and you have to see your family. I'm so nervous, I don't want to go anymore, Nori said, retreating deep into the cave. I'll remain anonymous. Come on Nori-chan, you have to see your family, they'll be so happy they'll cry, said Tanjiro, trying to pull Nori out of the depths. That's exactly why I don't want to go out. When I cry, nobody comforts me, Nori said, clinging to a rock. They fought until the sun set, both watching intently for where Sayumi should be coming from, but she didn't arrive. And Sayu? Nori asked, worried. She must be coming soon, they're probably not letting her out, Tanjiro guessed nervously, a bad feeling hitting him like a cold shower. But it's been a long time, Nori said, finally able to leave the cave. There was no trace of the sun. Well, I don't think she'll mind if we go first. I'm sure they didn't let her out at night. Tanjiro stood up and helped Nori. They started walking towards the Kimura house. Nori was noticeably nervous, and Tanjiro had a bad feeling he didn't like it all. When they arrived at the house, they could see the lights on in the distance, although they couldn't hear anything inside. Nori ran towards it, recognizing the house, and Tanjiro silently followed her. Sayu. I'm here. Nori shouted, running towards the house that was just a few meters away. But something horrendous happened. Sayumi could be seen being slammed against a tree. She fell spitting blood, and her bones could be heard crunching with her weak movements. Sayu. That was a terrified scream from Nori. She wanted to go to her sister, but a man stopped her in her tracks. He looked like an important man, of high rank, wearing a colorful and clearly elegant kimono, and carrying a fine gold-covered spear. Judging by his eyes and skin color, it was clear he was a demon. Kamado Tanjiro, the new demon king, the demon spoke in an elegant voice, I thought you would be taller. Who are you? Was all Tanjiro managed to say. He was on the verge of exploding with fury. That's none of your business, but I can tell you that I'll be the one to take your place. Without Muzan, I'll have whatever I want. The demon sounded incredibly arrogant, so much so that it made Tanjiro's veins bulge. You hurt Sayu. You bastard. Without thinking, Nori went to attack the demon who hurt her sister. Tanjiro's thoughts. I want to kill him, I'm going to dismember him, why? I want to kill him, murder him. Tanjiro-san. Sayumi's weak voice banished those thoughts from Tanjiro's mind. Seeing her injured, he rushed over to try and stop the bleeding. Tanjiro-san, I'm sorry I didn't arrive in time. Don't worry, Sayumi-san, it's not your fault, but you must remain conscious. I'll take you to the village and they can heal you. Tanjiro spoke so fast he was barely understandable. Tanjiro-san, help Sai, she needs help. I'll be fine, she smiled weakly. Sayumi was losing a lot of blood. Wait here, I'll be right back, please hold on. Tanjiro stood up, but he didn't even manage to turn around when he heard Nori's audible groan. When he turned around, he could see how the demon had his spear in Nori's stomach. It looked like a kebab skewer. Despite this, she still wanted to scratch, hit, or at least hurt the demon. Damn it. Damn it. Damn it. Nori kept repeating, trying to reach the demon with her claws. Insolent one, in my new empire, demons like you will be the first to die, the demon said in that elegant tone that was disgusting. You're wrong. Tanjiro suddenly appeared next to the demon, surprising him. But how the demon tried to say, but it was too late. A hand had taken his place in his brain. Demons like you are the ones who will not exist in my world. Tanjiro emphasized, tearing off the head and throwing it far away. The body fell, and Nori was able to get up. Sayu. Nori hadn't realized the spear was still in her stomach, but she didn't care and went to her sister, who was dying. Sayu, Sayu. Hang on, you'll be alright. Sai, you have something in your stomach. Sayumi's weak voice broke her sister's heart. She had just remembered her and now she was going to leave. Don't worry, Nori-chan, we have to go to the village so they can heal her, Tanjiro said, arriving and trying to lift Sayumi, but she cried out in pain. Wait, you're hurting her. Nori made Tanjiro put her back down on the ground. Sai, don't go into the house. Tanjiro-san, don't let Sai go into the house, Sayumi said in her last moments. Sayu, wait, don't go, Nori began to cry, pleading with whoever was listening to her not to leave. Calm down, Sai, everything will be alright. The light in Sayumi's eyes was slowly fading. Sayu, Sayu, please don't do this to me. Nori cried harder and harder. Tanjiro-sama. Turn Sayu into a demon so she can live. But Tanjiro couldn't finish as he too had been crying. Please, Tanjiro, turn my sister into a demon, Nori pleaded as she clung to her younger sister's nearly lifeless body. Tanjiro was in crisis, but he didn't hesitate to cut his wrists and bring the streams of blood to Sayumi's slightly open mouth. Luckily, she was still somewhat conscious enough to swallow, and with a good amount, the wound closed on its own. Sayu, sister, please don't leave me, Nori said, cupping her sister's lifeless face. Don't leave me please. The beginning of the village of Unitedo. Sayumi had slowly closed her eyes, her breathing was non-existent and her heart could take no more. Sayu, Nori cried her eyes out. Sayumi-san, Tanjiro whispered through uncontrollable tears. Ah. That was a huge gasp of air from Sayumi. Her breathing began to moderate and her heart started beating again. Sayu. Sayu. You're alive. Nori was now crying tears of joy. It worked. Tanjiro was crying just like Nori. Sayumi's wounds were healing little by little. Her bones could be heard settling. Nori-chan, go quickly to the jail of the cave and bring back food. When she wakes up, she's going to be starving, Tanjiro ordered. Yes, good, take care of her. Nori ran off, wiping away her tears. Tanjiro carried Sayumi to the house, but he couldn't even go inside when he saw the grotesque scene. The grandmother was headless, the mother had a stamp mark on her stomach, her intestines spilling out, and the father was missing an arm, having bled to death. Sayumi squirmed in Tanjiro's arms. She had smelled the blood. He had to be quick. He took Sayumi to the kitchen and locked her inside. Taking advantage of his now superhuman strength, he quickly dug 3 graves and buried the bodies, placed rocks around them, and prayed for a few minutes. Tanjiro-sama. I've arrived. Nori exclaimed, carrying his entire body on his back. Go around back to the kitchen. Sayumi didn't want you in the house, and you're not going in. Tanjiro stood up. Nori saw the 3 graves, then turned her gaze to the house. Through a window, she could see a bloodstain. I understand. Nori lowered her gaze and walked around the house with Tanjiro. Upon entering the kitchen, they found Sayumi growling like a dog in a defensive stance. Her eyes had pupils like a cat's, her brown hair was now as black as Nori's, and her teeth and nails were now sharp. Sayumi-san, calm down, Tanjiro began, you need to calm down a little. Sayumi's growls grew louder, but she stopped when she saw the man's body Nori was carrying on her back. If you calm down, we'll give you some. Tanjiro had cut off one of the human's arms. Sayumi spun around like a dog, her growling stopped, and she looked at Tanjiro with a grudging fine expression. Here. Tanjiro threw his arm at her, Sayumi caught it in midair and didn't hesitate to start eating it, not caring if she got blood on her face. Tanjiro-sama, Sayu doesn't remember anything right now, does she? Nori asked, watching her sister acting like an animal. No, but you can make her remember everything in an hour or two, Tanjiro tried to reassure Nori. Turning Sayumi into a demon had been a desperate decision. I'm going to the living room. You stay here with Sayumi-san, and when she comes to, you explain everything to her. Okay, Nori said, leaving the man's body next to the firewood and sitting on the floor with her legs drawn up to her chest, waiting for her sister to finish eating. Tanjiro left the sisters and returned to the living room. The blood on the walls was still there, already drying. Tanjiro rummaged through the drawers in the living room and bedrooms, gathering some of Sayumi's clothes and a few that Nori might need. He also took some of his father's clothes for himself, divided everything, and wrapped it in blankets. He also kept a small drawing of the whole family from when Nori and Sayumi were 4 or 5 years old. Afterward, Tanjiro returned to the kitchen. He wasn't very surprised to see the sisters hugging each other and crying their eyes out. All that remained of the man's body was a leg, his clothes, and his bones. Hello to both of you, Tanjiro said, kneeling in front of the two women who barely noticed his presence. Tanjiro-sama Sayu, I do remember, Nori said with pure happiness. I'm so glad, Tanjiro smiled. Tanjiro-sama, I ate someone, Sayumi said, her voice filled with fear and disgust. I thought the same thing when I first ate humans, but don't worry, remember about only drinking blood. Tanjiro wanted to act as normal as possible so that neither of them would suddenly get upset even though he was about to burst into tears. If I remember correctly, Tanjiro-sama, our mom and dad. Sayumi's face was about to spill that salty liquid from her eyes again. Come with me, Tanjiro said, getting up and leading them outside to the graves he had made. The two knelt down and joined hands. There were a few minutes of silence until they stood up and saw Tanjiro, who had a pained expression. How is it possible that even with this power I'm late? Tanjiro couldn't hold back any longer and treacherous tears began to fall. Tanjiro-sama, I already told you, you don't have to blame yourself, you have no reason to feel this way, Nori said as she hugged Tanjiro. You saved my life, Tanjiro-sama, thank you so much, Sayumi said, joining the hug. They remained silent, the three of them trying to process everything that had happened in such a short time, but they couldn't just stand by. What do we do now? Nori asked. Sayu is a demon, and my family is resting. We will put the village's plan into action, Tanjiro said, now confident in himself. He couldn't let himself be defeated just because he felt insecure and a little afraid. But how are we going to feed ourselves? I don't want to devour a man again, Sayumi said, trembling slightly. We'll see about that. First, we have to get out of here. At some point, they'll realize the Kimura family isn't around and the rumor of a massacre will spread, Tanjiro said, wondering what the town would say. Besides, I don't think it's good for them to stay here any longer. I don't have anything important in the cave, so as far as I'm concerned, we can leave now, Nori smiled, wanting to lift everyone's spirits with, according to her, her unique personality. I've already packed your things, Tanjiro said, taking out the 2 bundles of clothes he had brought from the house and handing them to them. He then took out the family drawing last. It's not much, but you'll always know you had a family that loved you unconditionally. Now you're like family to us, Tanjiro-sama, Sayumi smiled, tucking the drawing into her clothes. And we'll be a big family soon, we have to go to the new location of the village, Tanjiro said, getting up in high spirits. And what's the name of that village? I don't think we'll call it the village of humans and demons, Nori said, teasing Tanjiro a little. It could be Unitedo, Sayumi opined, means united. That's a very good idea, Sayumi-san. What do you say, Nori-chan? Tanjiro asked happily. That'll be fine, but why don't we talk while we're leaving? The night isn't endless, you know. That comment elicited a small laugh from Tanjiro and Sayumi at Nori's behavior. What are you laughing at? Nori asked. Tell me. You'll understand in due time, Tanjiro smiled as he began to walk. Huh? Sayu, explain, Nori demanded, looking at her sister. Sai, your body doesn't match your personality, Sayumi laughed, walking away and leaving Nori behind, who was left thinking. What does that have to do with anything? Nori ran to catch up with them both. The 3 demons walked by moonlight. They had to quicken their pace to reach the Misty Mountain at night. Note. Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, you read that right, the Misty Mountain, home of your Akadaki-sensei. Wait, you're thinking of building a cave. Sayumi still couldn't believe what Tanjiro had said. Yes, there are no caves on that mountain, I know, I've climbed it more than once, but the good thing is that it's always covered in a thick fog, that will be our camouflage, Tanjiro explained, recalling his training with your Akadaki, and it works in our favor because it's very difficult for the fog to lift, so the sun won't hit them so hard. You told me there was a village near that mountain, right? Nori wondered. Yes, there's a village over there. My master used to send me on errands, Tanjiro said, a bead of sweat trickling down his cheek as he remembered the time he'd only been sent to fetch some spices for dinner. But the villagers won't notice us. They don't usually go near the mountain. Then it will be a good hiding place, Sayumi smiled, happy to have a new home. Although we still have many things to think about, such as, how are we going to build houses inside the cave? How will water reach the humans? Will we have to make secret tunnels? Who will be the members of the demon flowers? Tanjiro continued, listing the gaps in his plan. Okay, we have a lot to figure out, but I'm sure we'll figure it out. Sayumi had faith in Tanjiro and Nori. She was certain she would achieve her goal. I can already imagine it. We're going to have to light everything up with lots of lights, and the best part is that the roof won't burn because it's made of stone. Nori had an idea of what the secret mountain village would be like. It will be very nice, it's something that's not common, Sayumi smiled. It took them a while to reach the mountain, even though they were going at great speed. It was far from where they were. They also had to help Sayumi control her newfound stamina and strength, but luckily they arrived a little before dawn. Wow, that is a huge mountain. I still wonder how you'll build a cave, Sayumi said, looking at the mountain covered in mist, except for the summit. It's going to be a difficult job, plus I have to figure out where to leave the remains, Tanjiro said. It was going to be a long day. In the meantime, let's hide them from the sun. At the foot of the mountain, Tanjiro had made a mini cave with his own hands, deep enough to keep out even a sliver of sunlight. Sayumi and Nori went inside. I'm going to start digging. Don't come out until sunset, though I'll be back before then. Tanjiro smiled, left his clothes with the demons, and left. Good luck, Tanjiro-sama. Nori was heard shouting. Tanjiro circled the mountain, wanting to see something before starting to demolish the interior. He walked along the paths he himself had made during his training, memories of how he had been injured, flooding back a strange feeling of nostalgia. In the distance, he could see a cabin at the foot of the mountain. It was Urakadaki's house. He was alone. Surely he was still with Kariya Bayashiki, who was now the new Oyakata-sama. I hope he's with Kariya-kun, and not. Tanjiro didn't want to dwell on the last question about why Urakadaki wasn't home, so he just left. Tanjiro went to one side of the mountain, the opposite direction from the village and Urakadaki's house. That would be the main entrance. He climbed a little so that the trees and the fog would hide the entrance's location, and there he began to dig. I removed the stones and with the leftover earth made a small path. The entrance tunnel was 4 meters high by 3 meters wide. It was large, yes, but I needed space so that carts, many people or furniture could pass through if necessary. Thinking that it would be secret, he came up with the idea of making an imperceptible door, so it would be harder for intruders to find the entrance. So, with Tanjiro's trademark ingenuity, several forgotten ropes, leaves, branches, and stones, he managed to make a door that camouflaged itself with the environment, and through a simple mechanism, the door opened and closed like a basket lid. Tanjiro's thoughts. Ugh, I'm tired, but it turned out well. This had to pay off after all. It's not sunset yet. I'll start following the tunnel. It'll be a bit long, but it's for safety. Just as Tanjiro had said, he began to dig deeper. He had the idea to spread the dirt from inside all over the outside of the mountain. In time, it would seem as if nothing had happened, although it would take some time. When he realized it, he had already finished the tunnel and had started to dig 20% of the cave. It was spacious, not yet level with the ground, but that would have to be fixed. Besides, it was tall. At least 10 meters of the cave had collapsed. I need to rest for a second. Tanjiro sat down on the ground to rest, but he felt like he was forgetting something. The girls. I left them in the cave. Tanjiro started running towards the cave where he had left Nori and Sayumi. When he came out of the tunnel, he realized that sunset had already passed, so he sped up so much that he reached his destination in seconds. Hey girls. Tanjiro greeted as soon as he arrived, but was knocked to the ground by Nori. You said you'd arrive before sunset. It's been almost 20 minutes. Nori tried to hit Tanjiro on the head. Sorry, but inside the mountain I couldn't see the sun and it got a little late, Tanjiro said, dodging Nori's blows. I saved you some meat, Nori wanted to eat it all, Sayumi said calmly as she left the cave. I thought he was dead, and we shouldn't waste anything. Nori stood up, allowing Tanjiro to get to his feet. Come with me, I want to show you what I've done, Tanjiro smiled and led them to the entrance. And the entrance? Didn't you say you'd done a lot? Nori asked, looking around the place. Wait a second, Tanjiro approached a tree. There was a branch that seemed very ordinary, but the thing was, Tanjiro pulled it down like a lever, revealing the entrance. Ta-da. Wow, Tanjiro-sama, I'm impressed, Sayumi said, watching as an apparent piece of land rose up, revealing a tunnel. Nori entered the tunnel. It's very dark. Let me try something. Tanjiro took a thick branch from the ground, cut his finger slightly, and let the blood drip onto the tip. When the wound closed, Tanjiro snapped his fingers, creating a spark that ignited as blood a torch. Come on. I want to see the inside, Nori demanded from inside the tunnel, her voice echoing. They walked through the tunnel until they reached a large space that Tanjiro had made. "It's quite large," Sayumi said in surprise. "Where is all the leftover rock and stone?" I took her to different parts of the mountain. "Over there, I need to build a pillar to support everything above. I think I'll have to make about 3 or 4 pillars. I also thought of a way to bring water, but I need your help," and Tanjiro continued, sharing his ideas, imagining everything he would have to do and how amazing it would all be. They took advantage of the night. While Tanjiro continued clearing space, Sayumi removed the debris and Nori leveled the floor and walls. They kept working until they were about 85% finished. They were demons. The work was done quickly thanks to their abilities. The sun rose, so Sayumi could no longer remove the debris. They were going to finish this cave very quickly, that was for sure. Afterward, they would have to leave and start looking for people who deserved to be in the village. Each family would build their own house, and the more families that arrived, the better. Tanjiro was excited about this idea of helping people, but there were people he missed very much. One day after Tanjiro's disappearance escape, we find ourselves at the butterfly estate. Nothing can be heard in the corridors, only the wind and the water running from the fountains. A strange atmosphere pervades the place, a mixture of helplessness, pain, and fear. The Kikuchi and members of the estate walked slowly, carrying bandages, creams, and other things to heal the wounded. In one room sat Kiriya Bayashiki, the new Oyakata-sama. Behind him were his 2 sisters, all 3 visibly dejected. Their father, mother, and sisters had died, so that this plan could take effect, but it hadn't ended up being better or worse. Facing the siblings were Gyu, his right arm missing from the elbow down, covered in bandages, and Sanemi beside him, his body almost entirely bandaged. They were the only 2 pillars left alive. I would like to say at this moment that this would be the last pillar assembly, but this is not the case, Kiriya began, his voice sounding as if he wanted to shout to unleash his fury, but as Oyakata-sama, he had to maintain his composure. "We don't know for sure if Muzan has taken over Kamado Tanjiro's body or if he is thinking freely without Muzan's influence, but I am certain that we must capture him and, if necessary, kill him. Oyakata-sama, Kamado is very powerful right now. It will take us years to find him and many more years to kill him," Sanemi said in his typical manner. "And we are only 2 pillars. We will need at least 15. Sanemi-kun is right. Besides, now Tanjiro-san can turn humans into demons. If those demons can control the sun like he does, we'll be at a huge disadvantage." Gyu was noticeably sad. It was palpable in his aura, even though his face was more serious than usual. "We won't have much time. The losses among swordsmen are enormous and the wounded are even more numerous, but we can't rest. Within a week, I want you to bring 3 powerful swordsmen you know. I'll assess their abilities and if they accept, they will become pillars," Kiriya explained, trying to appear calm, following his father's calming demeanor. "After that, we'll begin the search for Kamado Tanjiro and the complete extermination of the demons once and for all. Thank you for coming." Kiriya stood up and left, her sisters followed her in silence, Sanemi clenched his fists tightly, Gyu was lost in thought. "Tanjiro, where are you?" Gyu thought, then turned his head to take in the beautiful view of the garden, which at that moment offered no feeling of happiness. First worthy family. It's a few days after Tanjiro's arrival at Misty Mountain. He, along with Nori and Sayumi, had finally finished the cave. A spacious area opened up upon entering. 4 pillars supported the upper section with an elaborate system. In the middle of the cave, water flowed in a straight channel, 1 meter deep and 1 meter wide. This water came from a river that flowed near the mountain and exited from another side, eventually returning to the main river. Tanjiro's signature torches illuminated the entire area. "I didn't think we'd finish so quickly," Sayumi said, impressed by what they had accomplished in such a short time. "It would have taken other people years." "But we're not people, Sayu, we're demons," Nori smiled and started running all over the cave, which was at least half a kilometer long and about 40 meters high. "We removed so much rock and earth that we had to cover 2 more mountains," Tanjiro said. Although happy with the result, he was exhausted, but according to Nori, nothing a little food couldn't fix. But this paid off. "Here, anyone who wants to can live peacefully," Sayumi smiled. "I think it's daytime outside. Later we'll go get food and then we can bring people over," Tanjiro said happily. "I hope they agree to build their own houses." "If you don't want to sleep on the floor," Nori came running like a dog, "I want the humans to arrive already, I'm hungry." "I hope you don't eat them, Sai. From now on, we're only going to drink blood," Sayumi warned her sister, already knowing what she was like. If they deserve it, I'll eat them." Nori looked away, avoiding both Tanjiro and his sister. "Nori-chan," Tanjiro spoke. Okay, I'm not eating anyone, happy now?" Nori said grudgingly. "Yes, I'll be back later, girls. I'm going for a walk in the nearby village. Who knows, maybe I'll run into our first neighbors." Tanjiro headed for the exit. He walked at a leisurely pace toward the village, observing the people who lived there. They all seemed happy, living their lives as best they could, except for one boy who caught Tanjiro's attention. He looked to be about 6 or 7 years old and was sitting on the edge of an alley, a straw hat beside him along with a few coins. Tanjiro decided to approach the boy with black hair and blue eyes. He wanted to talk to him. Perhaps he could do something to help him. "Hello, what's your name?" Tanjiro smiled at the boy, crouching down to his level to see him better. The boy was hugging his legs, seemingly cold. "Fumio Tanaka, and you?" Although his eyes were bright, his expression was emotionless. "Kamado Tanjiro, it's a pleasure." Tanjiro kept smiling at him. "Hey, what are you doing here all alone?" "I ask for money, I help my family however I can, there are many of us so we have to help each other," Fumio summarized without interest. "What's wrong with your family? Are they short of money?" Tanjiro asked. "Well, my aunt has an incurable disease, we owe months of rent, my father and uncle are getting old, my brothers and cousins are underpaid, and the children only let us beg in the street," the boy explained, sounding somewhat depressed. "I think I could do something for you," Tanjiro said kindly. "I can heal your aunt, get you a house where you don't have to pay rent, and no one will have to work for others because they'll all earn their own food through hard work." "How can you do something like that? Are you a god or something?" Fumio asked, bewildered. "You could say that, although I'm not God, I'm just someone powerful who wants to use his power to help," Tanjiro explained with a smile. "Would you like to take me to your house? That way I can talk to your family." I shouldn't, you're a stranger, but if you can do everything you say fine, I'll take you." Fumio took the hat, put the coins away, and stood up. "Guide me, Tanaka-san," Tanjiro smiled. "It's a bit far," Fumio said, putting on his straw hat and starting to walk. Tanjiro followed him. "Hey, can I ask you a question?" "Sure, as many as you want," Tanjiro agreed, looking down at Fumio. "Why are your eyes like that?" Fumio asked. "And your skin is very white, are you sick too?" "Well, Tanaka-san, I'm not like other humans. What I told you about me being powerful is completely true, but that power gave me this appearance," Tanjiro explained, rounding off the topic of the Demon King. "Before, I had a more vibrant skin tone, and my eyes weren't pink, they were red." "If you had a different appearance before, that means you haven't always had that power," the boy deduced. "Exactly, you're very clever, Tanaka-san," Tanjiro smiled at him. "Did someone give you that power, or were you born with it?" the boy continued to ask. "They gave it to me, even though I didn't ask for it, and I could probably get rid of it, but that would be a waste, because I could use it for something good, like helping your family," Tanjiro said calmly. "That tells me you have a good heart," Fumio said, looking into Tanjiro's eyes. "I hope you can help my family." "I'll do my best, that's why I'm here," Tanjiro smiled happily. They spent the time talking about Fumio's family. His parents Hachiro and Aiko, his older brother Daichi, and his older sister June. On the other hand, there were his uncles and aunts. Ryoko, the sick aunt, and her husband Seiji, and their 2 children Yu and Yogi. That's the Tanaka family. The Tanaka family won't be very important in the story, I only included them because they'll be important in this chapter. When they arrived at the house, Tanjiro was surprised that it wasn't any bigger than the one he lived in with his family. Rather, they were almost the same size. How could 9 people live there? "I'm here," Fumio shouted as soon as they entered the small house. "Fumio, who is your friend?" asked a woman lying on a futon. Next to her was another woman changing wet cloths and a young girl knitting. "Oka-san, Ni-chan, Ryoko-chan, this is Kamado Tanjiro, he says he can help us," Fumio summarized. "Nice to meet you, Tanaka family," Tanjiro smiled kindly, giving a slight bow. "Fumio, what do you mean by saying he can help us?" asked Fumio's apparent older sister. "Tanaka-san told me a little about his problems. I know his aunt has an illness, they're struggling financially, they're having trouble with their jobs, etc." Tanjiro said calmly. "I can help them solve all of that." "Oka-san. We're here." The door through which Tanjiro and Fumio had entered earlier opened, revealing 3 men. "Who is he?" "I'm Kamado Tanjiro, nice to meet you," Tanjiro smiled, noticing that Sunset had already arrived outside. "What do you want?" The younger one pointed the axe he had brought with him at him. "I've come to help you," Tanjiro said kindly. "I haven't come to harm you." "Help us? How do you plan to help us?" asked one of the older men. "I can give them a new home, and I have a cure for the lady's illness," Tanjiro explained, his words expressing truth. "What do you want in return?" "We don't have any money to pay with," Fumio's mother said, sounding somewhat depressed. "I'm not asking for money, nor any kind of wealth, it's something very simple, and it's part of the treatment for my aunt's illness," Tanjiro explained simply. "What exactly is it?" Fumio's sister asked. "The only thing I ask in return is your blood." Tanjiro's expression hadn't changed, which was a mistake because it gave him a creepy look, frightening the family. "You're crazy," said the boy with the axe. "Get out of my house." "Aren't they even going to think about it?" Tanjiro asked, confused. "I don't need to think something like that, it's a stupid and dangerous request," the boy with the axe said. "Get out of my house, stay away from my family." "Are you sure? I could save your aunt. Just by looking at her, I can tell she won't last another year," Tanjiro said worriedly. "Shut up, get out of here." The boy was about to strike Tanjiro with the handle of his axe, but a familiar hand stopped the attack, protecting Tanjiro. "Don't you dare hit Tanjiro-sama," Nori said angrily. "Oh, hi girls, sorry I'm late but I was talking to this lovely family," Tanjiro smiled calmly. "What kind of family would hit someone like Tanjiro-sama? What did you say?" Sayumi asked, suddenly appearing from behind Tanjiro. "I only said that in exchange for solving their problems, they had to give me some of their blood," Tanjiro said innocently. "They almost beat you up over a little blood. Right now I feel more human than them," Nori said, letting go of the axe handle. "You are demons," said the man, who hadn't spoken since he arrived, his voice trembling with fear. "Congratulations. That's the correct answer," Nori said, making Tanjiro and Sayumi laugh. "Don't make those jokes, Nori-chan," Tanjiro laughed. "It's mean. Damn it. Another reason to kick them out of my house right now," the boy exclaimed, agitated. He couldn't move again before suddenly collapsing to the ground under weight. "First you want to hit Tanjiro-sama, and now you interrupt him. If it weren't for Tanjiro-sama hating unnecessary violence, he would have eaten you already," Nori said, preventing the boy from getting up. "Besides, they don't let me eat humans anymore." "What kind of demons are you?" Fumio's mother asked. She had remained silent. "Although it sounds funny and completely impossible, we are demons pacifists," Sayumi said calmly. "We have eaten humans, but we want to change. Tanjiro-sama says that demons can live perfectly well with a cup of blood a day. If that's true, we could completely change the other demons, and who knows, humans and demons living together, that would be a dream. The cure I propose for Ryoko-san's illness is to transform her into a demon. It's painless and will extend her life as long as she desires," Tanjiro explained, "but in exchange, I need her blood. We need to eat too." "Assuming we accept, how do we solve our other problems?" asked one of the men at the entrance. "There's a place where they can go to live, the only problem is they need to build their own house, but I can supply them with materials. For food, I thought about building gardens near the town," Tanjiro said. "It's a very small price we're asking to fix your lives, just accept already," Nori said, bored of listening to the explanations. "I think we should accept," Ryoko said, her voice a little weak, drawing her family's attention. "What do we have to lose?" "If you accept, I only need 2 glasses, one empty and the other filled with human blood," Tanjiro said, smiling. "You can think about it as long as you like. We'll be nearby. Otherwise, go to the foot of the Misty Mountain. You'll find us there. Girls, let's go." "I don't want you to dare do anything to Tanjiro-sama again," Nori threatened the boy beneath her. "Come on Sai, leave the boy alone," Sayumi said, taking her sister by the hand and leaving the house. "See you later, Tanaka-san," Tanjiro said to the boy as he left the house. The 3 demons began walking a little way from the house. It was night and there weren't many people outside their homes. "Tanjiro-sama, do you think they'll accept?" Sayumi asked, clutching her stomach. All 3 were hungry. They had decided not to eat anyone since arriving there, but the effects of hunger were already setting in. "Maybe, I'm not sure, I hope so," Tanjiro said, also clutching his stomach, which was growling. "I hope they talk soon. I'm going to starve to death, and if they don't give me an answer quickly, I'm going to eat the first person I see." Nori was slowly getting desperate. "Don't exaggerate, Nori-chan. We can still go 2 or 3 days without eating, although, if no one agrees, we'll have to eat a person." That was the last thing Tanjiro wanted to do, but if there was no other option, they would have to resort to that. "Why don't we start looking for more people for the village? We need candidates," Sayumi suggested, her mood shifting. "I say we go to other villages and towns. We're more likely to be discovered here," Nori suggested. "You're right about that," but someone interrupted Sayumi. Hamato-san. Fumio came running up with a boy who wanted to hit Tanjiro. "Do you still want to help us?" "Of course, Tanaka-san," Tanjiro smiled. "Is everything ready?" 2 glasses, one with human blood," the boy repeated Tanjiro's words. "Alright, let's go then." Tanjiro started walking back towards the Tanaka house. When they arrived, next to the futon where Ryoko was sitting there was a small table with 2 glasses, one containing that red liquid that made the demons' 3 stomachs rumble. "Good evening everyone, are you sure about this?" Tanjiro asked, looking at the family in a corner. "Your proposal sounds tempting," said one of the men who appeared to be Fumio's father. "Excellent," Tanjiro smiled, kneeling in front of the small table with the glasses. "You'll feel some discomfort when you finish drinking my blood, but don't worry, in the end you'll feel full of life." Tanjiro cut his veins and filled the empty glass with his blood. The whole family had their eyes on Tanjiro, who remained calm. "Please, try to drink it all," Tanjiro said, handing Ryoko the glass of his blood. "I'll try." Ryoko sat down on the futon, picked up the glass, and without hesitation, began to drink its contents. Tanjiro took the other glass of human blood and waited. When Ryoko finished, she dropped the glass, began to let out involuntary growls, the tips of her hair turned white, her pupils became long like a cat's, and her teeth sharpened. "Is that normal?" Fumio's sister asked. "Yes, but it would be best if you moved back a little," Sayumi smiled. She and Nori positioned themselves between the family and the new demon, just in case. Ryoko was about to attack Tanjiro, but he was faster. He put the glass in Ryoko's mouth and made her drink the blood of one of her relatives, down to the last drop. When she finished, her muscles relaxed. Tanjiro took advantage of this to squeeze a certain muscle in her neck and knock her out, causing her to fall onto the futon. "Okay," Tanjiro said, standing up and looking at the family. "When she wakes up, she won't even know who she is or who they are, so you have to make her remember." "That'll be easy." "So she's cured now?" Fumio's mother asked. "Yes, there's no harm that can hurt her, but being a demon has its limitations, such as not being able to be in the sun, having to learn to suppress her instincts, and considering that if her head is cut off, she will die. That's the only way to kill a demon, apart from sunlight," Tanjiro explained in detail to the family. "Now please. Give me some of your blood." Nori was exaggerating a little, she clasped her hands together and knelt down. "These two have been starving me for over 3 days. Every living thing needs food." "Sigh, don't exaggerate," Sayumi pleaded, embarrassed, but she became even more embarrassed when her stomach growled. "Sorry. Actually, if it's not too much trouble." Tanjiro clutched his stomach, which had begun to rumble. "Oh, sure, give me a minute," Fumio's sister, June, said, getting up. "Seiji-chan, Ani-chan, come with me." The 3 family members went to what appeared to be the kitchen. Then June returned with a tray and 3 glasses full of blood. Daichi and Seiji came out of the kitchen, each holding an arm. "Here you go." June handed them the tray kindly. "Thank you for the food." The 3 demons said quickly, each grabbing a glass and drinking it down without leaving a drop. "This moment in my life is called happiness," Nori said with a smile, satisfied that her stomach was full. "Thank you so much," Sayumi smiled, regaining her strength. Ryoko suddenly began to stir in her seat. She was waking up. Her apparent husband was looking at her with concern. Where am I?" the woman asked, sitting down on the futon. "It's good to see you awake, Ryoko-san. How are you feeling? Are you in any pain or discomfort?" Tanjiro asked kindly, giving her a calm smile. "I'm fine, nothing hurts, but who are you?" Ryoko sounded completely confused. "And why do you smell so good?" "First, Ryoko-san, if you do anything to these humans, you'll end up in trouble." Tanjiro smiled, but with a sinister air that made Ryoko break out in a cold sweat. "Second, they are your family, and they will answer all your questions until you regain your memories. Go ahead, Tanaka family, go to your aunt and help her remember her life." Sayumi urged everyone to surround the woman. For a moment, the woman felt her instinct surface, even drooling slightly, but when she saw Tanjiro out of the corner of her eye, she immediately stopped them and looked away. "This is a family moment, so we'll wait outside," Tanjiro smiled, leaving with Sayumi and Nori. They sat on the floor leaning against the old house and waited, under the light of the moon and the stars. "Hey Tanjiro-sama, you seem worried, can I ask why?" asked Sayumi, who had noticed Tanjiro looking around at all the streets in front of him. "Fumio-san told me the names of all the members of his family and 2 children are missing. I think their names were Yu and Yogi," Tanjiro explained worriedly. "It's already night and they haven't returned home. They're probably working, like everyone in that family," Nori said, lying on the ground and gazing at the stars. "Fumio-san told me the children were going to beg for money. They don't work yet and that's what worries me. They haven't even arrived home yet," Tanjiro said, looking around for any sign of the children. "If you're so worried about them, we'll go and find them as soon as they're done in there," Nori said nonchalantly. "That's a very good idea, Nori-chan," Tanjiro smiled. Inside the house, a faint noise was heard, then all that was seen was the door being kicked, breaking, and Ryoko ran out. "Hey, what happened?" Nori asked, watching the family members come out of the house looking both surprised and worried. "Were you unable to make her remember?" Sayumi asked the family. "Yes, we managed it, but when he asked about Yu and Yogi he got upset because they hadn't arrived home yet," Fumio's mother explained. "Then he got up, broke down the door, and ran away." "She's not trying to escape, is she, Tanjiro-sama?" Sayumi asked, watching where the woman had gone. "She's not going to escape. The way she was running wasn't an escape. She's looking for her children," Tanjiro explained, getting up. "I'm going to get her. In the meantime, pack all your things. You're moving." Congratulations Tanaka family, remember to pack all your belongings. You can take your furniture, but that will mean a double trip. Don't forget anything and Nori said, leading the family inside the house so they could get ready. I'll be right back. Take the Tanaka family to the cave. I'll arrive with Ryoko-san and her children, Tanjiro informed Sayumi, who nodded and went inside the house. It's time to help, Tanjiro smiled as he took a great leap, looking as if he were flying above the houses. Time passes. We see Tanjiro, flying. No, that wasn't flying, it was that he had dropped a very large balance, and it looked like he was flying. Tanjiro's thoughts. When I find Ryoko and her children, we'll return to the cave and begin building houses. I'm so excited just thinking about all the people I'm going to help. The cave can easily hold 1,000 or 2,000 people, and about 400 of them will be demons. I'll have to choose the demon flowers quickly. We'll need a lot of organization. Tanjiro's thoughts were interrupted when he saw Ryoko chasing a very fast-moving cart. Tanjiro lowered himself to the ground in front of the cart, stopping the horses with a glance. Good evening, gentlemen, Tanjiro smiled amiably, looking at the two men driving the cart. Ryoko had arrived at his side. Tanjiro how do I say this? Tanjiro-sama, those two have my children, Ryoko said, agitated. Mom? Came two shouts from under the blanket at the back of the cart. So that's why you ran away, huh? Well, let's settle this. Tanjiro turned his gaze to the men. Gentlemen, could you please release the children? I promise I won't harm them. You're crazy, brat, said one of the men, pulling out a butcher knife and threatening Tanjiro. Why are they calling me crazy lately? Tanjiro said, feeling depressed. Give me my children and I'll consider not killing them, Ryoko threatened. Ryoko-san, if you become a demon, it will be under my rules. The main one is not to kill humans, much less eat them, Tanjiro explained. And you too, free the children, now. We're going to make a lot of money with them. We're not going to give them to you, but we will give you a little present, said the other man. The one with the knife threw it to Tanjiro, who caught it in midair with 2 fingers. I'll ask again, Tanjiro said, his expression shifting to one that even frightened Ryoko. Release the children now. We see Tanjiro walking happily through the forest, with Ryoko and her 2 children behind him. Interestingly, Tanjiro's clothes were slightly stained with blood, but don't worry, those men were still alive, although not whole, but those are insignificant details. They should all be there by now, I assure you they'll live better, Tanjiro smiled, walking towards the cave. Thank you so much for giving us a place to live, and for free, Ryoko said gratefully. That's right, I wanted to talk to you about something, Ryoko. Tanjiro glanced at her sideways, but with a friendly air. Tell me, Tanjiro-sama, Ryoko said, prompting Tanjiro to speak. You see, I'm going to invite other families to live here soon, and I need the demons living there to be kept under control. I'm forming a kind of guardian to restrain and protect both demons and humans, Tanjiro explained, and also to keep the demon slayers away. And you want me to join your group? Ryoko asked. Yep, obviously only if you want to, Tanjiro said happily. I'm going to discuss it with my family and then I'll tell you my answer, okay? Ryoko said. Of course, I'll give you all the time you need. With that, Tanjiro stopped abruptly, confusing the mother and her children, who apparently weren't talking much. Tanjiro lowered the branch and the entrance appeared. Please come in. They followed Tanjiro through the tunnel, which was only lit by Tanjiro-branded torches. When they entered the cave, the family was already there, with a couple of pieces of furniture and all their belongings. From that day on, the Tanaka family began living there. They built their own house with the help of Tanjiro, Sayumi, and Nori. Ryoko agreed to become one of the demon flowers, taking the position of the lily of the valley, a type of flower. Sayumi and Nori shared the role of the Latana flower, named after the Latana wreaths Tanjiro had made for them. Each day that passed, Tanjiro traveled to different towns and villages, searching for those who deserved to live in Uniteto village. He transformed men, women, and children with terminal illnesses, missing limbs, and other ailments into demons. This is how the cave began to fill up. Both demons and humans could live there perfectly well, and this filled Tanjiro's heart with joy. He had saved many people by turning them into demons, giving them a second chance to live with their loved ones. In 3 months there were about 300 people, roughly 70 of them demons. The houses they built made the place look more alive. Children could play without fear of being kidnapped. Outside the mountain there was a huge orchard where humans could go and take enough for their families. Inside the cave they had also made a stable for cows and pigs, food for the humans. Almost everyone lived very well, happy and peaceful, under the rule of Tanjiro and the demon flowers, to which 3 more people had recently been added. Goro, a 14-year-old boy found by Nori when she went to investigate a clogged drain. The boy was drowning and nearly died, so Nori had to take him to Tanjiro to be transformed into a demon and named after the Colorado Columbine flower. Musashi, a 32-year-old man who arrived in the village with his family, was transformed into a demon because he was missing an arm, which regenerated as a demon. He was given the convolvulus tricolor flower. Finally, there was Kaio, a 60-year-old man who had been a swordsman in his youth. He was alone and half dead, begging for food. Tanjiro invited him to the village and he became the hydrangea flower. Good evening, Tanjiro-sama. People would greet as they saw Tanjiro pass by. Tanjiro still wasn't used to being called that, but no matter how much he insisted they not use the sama, they ignored him and used it anyway. Tanjiro gave up after a month. Every day at the same time, Tanjiro would walk around the entire village and ask if everyone was alright. This, along with the fact that he had rescued them, transformed Tanjiro into not just a leader, but a kind and gentle king with a calm personality, adored and respected by all. "Mrs. Guam, let me help you with that," Tanjiro said, approaching an old woman with a wooden box full of vegetables, probably from the garden. "Thank you so much, Tanjiro-sama," the old woman said, standing beside her granddaughter. "Tanjiro-sama. Look what I got at school." The girl showed him a book with kanji writing. "You're already learning to write, I'm so glad, Jin-san," Tanjiro smiled, placing the wooden box in front of the old woman's house. "See you, Mrs. Guam." "Goodbye, Tanjiro-sama, have a nice day," the old woman said. Even though they were practically underground, the water level flowing through the diversions allowed them to tell if it was day or night. "Tanjiro-sama, we were supposed to go to the eastern village today, remember?" Musashi appeared. "That's right, Musashi-san, I'm going to the entrance now. I'll just finish checking everything and then we'll go," Tanjiro smiled, receiving a nod from Musashi before leaving. Musashi and Raya would stay in the village, while Sayumi, Nori and Goro would take Tanjiro to the eastern village. It was near the old blacksmith village, so it would be quick and easy to get there. When Tanjiro finished exploring the place, which was beautiful, the lights illuminated the houses and streets, giving it a festival-like feel at night. There were flowers that didn't need sunlight and water diversions that ran throughout the cave, made a relaxing sound. "It's about time you arrived, Tanjiro-sama," Nori said, leaning against the tunnel. "We only waited 5 minutes, sigh, don't exaggerate," Sayumi scolded her. "She's practically a child, let her be," said Goro, who had a somewhat shy personality, although once he gained confidence he was kind and talkative. "I'm glad to see you're making friends, Goro-kun," said Tanjiro with his ever-present smile. "It's quite fun being here, Tanjiro-sama," Goro said with a half-smile. "We can talk on the way, let's go," Nori demanded with a pout, which made everyone chuckle. As he went outside, he could see that the sun had just set, although that wasn't what Tanjiro focused on, but rather a rickshaw, a type of carriage pulled by people. Look up on Google-sama what a rickshaw is, I don't know how to explain it. "Eyes, what's that for?" Tanjiro asked, confused. "Obviously it's for you," Nori said, climbing into the only seat. "It's a gift from the village to you. The carpenters had to make it in secret, the children helped paint it, and the women made your seat and curtains," Sayumi explained. "I'll thank you all for this, but I'll feel bad if you all go walking and I just sit there," Tanjiro said, feeling both happy and a little embarrassed by the gift. "Sit down already, it took us a long time to distract you," Nori said, lifting Tanjiro into the rickshaw seat. "Let's go, we'll be there before dawn if we're lucky," said Goro, starting to pull the rickshaw along with Sayumi. Nori kept watch behind them and Tanjiro felt uneasy. A few hours later, he was incredibly bored. When they finally reached the eastern village, dawn was breaking, so the demons had to hide at the end of an alley. Tanjiro made a barrier with some boxes and trash from the alley. Anyone who entered wouldn't see anything strange, no one would know that there were 3 demons hiding there. "I'm going for a walk, I'll be back later," Tanjiro announced. "Why couldn't I master the sun?" Nori lamented. "I hate being locked up, I'm a free spirit." Tanjiro left the alley and walked slowly. There were no people in the streets. It was still very early. But as the sun began to rise, people started to appear, and in less than an hour there was a lot of activity. What Tanjiro didn't know was that while he was calmly observing his surroundings, 2 well-known swordsmen had just arrived in that same village. "Why did they have to choose us for this stupid mission? Explain it to me again, Manitsu," demanded someone with a boar's head on their head. "I already told you," a rumor started circulating that several families are disappearing because they discovered an answer to their problems. Oyakata-sama thinks all these disappearances have something to do with Tanjiro, although he doesn't have conclusive proof, which is why he asked us to investigate, said a boy wearing a yellow haori with triangles. "The moment I see that Manjiro, I'll beat him so badly that not even the farm girls will be able to help him." The boar-headed man shook his swords. "He deserves it for giving me so much trouble. Inosuke, I don't think we can even talk to Tanjiro if we ever see him. We were given clear orders to capture him if he doesn't resist. Otherwise, we'll have to kill him no matter what," Zenitsu said, his head bowed. He didn't want to kill one of his best friends. Don't lie, Minato. If I couldn't do it, you certainly can't, and I'm supposed to be completely amazing, Inosuke said, walking as he did. Neither of them said anything more. They spent the morning exploring the entire village, looking, listening, and feeling for any demons. Meanwhile, Tanjiro had seen 5 different families. 2 of them, though extremely poor, were arrogant and malevolent, so he had to turn them away. The other 3 families, however, deserved to come to the village. He had turned 4 people from those 3 families into demons. He gave them the entire afternoon to pack and would return for them at dusk, when they would be taken to the village, along with Sayumi, Nori, and Goro. Tanjiro didn't know why the families he considered worthy always readily agreed to go with him. He thought it would take them longer to make such a difficult decision as moving. After asking several people, he realized they did it out of necessity. For some, Tanjiro literally arrived like an angel fallen from heaven to prevent them from dying. What do I do until sunset? Tanjiro wondered. He was in what appeared to be a town square, where stalls were selling their wares. Tanjiro was interested in a girl. She was kneeling on a mat, her gaze lowered, with a plate of coins in front of her. Her expression was calm. It seemed as if she were meditating in that position. "Hello," Tanjiro greeted her with his familiar smile. "My name is Komodo Tanjiro, what's yours?" Hayami was all she said without even looking at Tanjiro. "Nice to meet you, Hayami. If I may ask, what are you doing here?" Tanjiro asked, intrigued. "I'm waiting for my poverty to reach people and for them to feel so sorry for me that they'll give me money, supposedly to help me." Hayami said all this without moving a muscle. "Would you let me help you? I can give you a life under a roof," Tanjiro offered kindly. "I'm not interested in being your concubine," she said curtly, with a hint of resentment in her words. "And no, that's what I meant," Tanjiro stammered, flustered and embarrassed. "I have a village where many people live peacefully and quietly. I'd like to invite you to visit. You can build or share a house." "That sounds like theft and deception. Your kind personality won't fool me." Hayami finally looked up and met Tanjiro's gaze, which surprised her greatly. Are you alright, Hayami-san? You suddenly turned pale," Tanjiro asked worriedly. "You're the Demon King," she whispered in amazement. "Huh? The Demon King? But I'm standing in the sun, how can I be a demon?" Tanjiro refused to tell the truth unless she agreed to go to the village. "Don't lie to me, I know those slit pupils and your teeth are sharp, you're the Demon King," Hayami said resolutely. "And how do you know I'm the Demon King?" "Demons always look like this," Tanjiro said. He knew he'd already said he was a demon, but he wanted to know how she knew he was the Demon King. 1. You're under the sun. 2. I have a very developed radar, explained the pink-haired girl. "Your radar?" Tanjiro asked, confused. "I can sense everything around me without even looking. I already knew you were a demon without seeing you, but when I saw your eyes, I knew the whole truth," Hayami said. "And about your offer to go with me, I'll think about it." "Alright, if you say yes, I'll come back here again at sunset," Tanjiro smiled, then left Hayami to think. Hours passed, and Tanjiro couldn't find another family worthy of coming with him. This pained him. He wanted to help everyone, no matter what they had done, but he knew that not everyone was good. Before the sun set completely, he returned to where he had left his friends, helping them escape from the fort of boxes he had built. "I'm free," Nori shouted with joy. "Next time I'll bring a book," Goro complained, stretching. His back even made an unpleasant sound. "Sorry for taking so long, but we need to move quickly. There are 3 families and a girl we need to pick up," Tanjiro explained quickly. "So what are we waiting for? Let's go find those families and go back home," Sayumi smiled excitedly. Goro and Nori drove the rickshaw, making sure not to attract too much attention from the few people still outside their homes. However, they made the mistake of remaining motionless for 5 seconds, and 2 people were able to make out Tanjiro's face in the distance. "Minato. There's Manjiro." Inosuke pointed his swords in the direction of Tanjiro, who began to move surrounded by his demons. "It really is him, he's surrounded by demons. We'll deal with them first, leaving Tanjiro for last." Zenitsu gripped the hilt of his sword. "Don't give me orders." Inosuke leaped onto the rooftops and started running towards where he had seen Tanjiro. Zenitsu, on the other hand, ran through the alleyways, supposedly to surround Tanjiro, but as quickly as they had seen him, he had vanished. They searched the entire town and its surroundings until dawn, but found nothing, only his footprints. They discovered that 3 other families had disappeared that night, and they connected it to Tanjiro and his demons. Inosuke and Zenitsu returned to Oyakata-sama as quickly as they had sent a crow with their report. Upon arriving, they went directly to the house where Oyakata-sama and the pillars were waiting for them, kneeling before him in a show of respect. They joined the long line of pillars that had formed in less than 2 weeks. "I've already received your report," Inosuke-san and Zenitsu-san, Korea began. "Are you sure it was Tanjiro?" Absolutely, replied Zenitsu, now known to the demon slayers as the lightning pillar. I was accompanied by 3 other demons. Are you sure it was him and not Muzan in his body? Gyu asked. I'm sure that was Manjiro, my senses don't fail me, said Inosuke, now a fang pillar, who had had to get used to removing his boar head in front of the Abayashiki heir. Now we can assume that the family's disappearances are Tanjiro's doing, Korea said thoughtfully. I hope he's not harming those families. From witnesses and neighbors, we can say they were all extremely poor. I don't think Tanjiro did anything to them if he really is the one in control of his body, said Kanao, who had been promoted to flower pillar. You will split up, go to different districts, and search for Tanjiro everywhere, Korea began ordering. Show no mercy to the demons he may have created. We have shown no mercy to any demon. The more I find, the more blood will stain my sword. Tsunemi smiled sadistically. Remember, our main mission is to find Tanjiro. If you see him, immediately send a crow and reinforcements will arrive as quickly as possible, Korea explained calmly. Don't try to face him alone. That would practically be your downfall, understand? Those present nodded, and without further ado, Korea got up from his seat and left peacefully. You heard Gyu, Chiyoko, you're going north, Zenitsu south, Inosuke west, Kanao east, Kiyoshi northeast, Izanagi northwest, Hideki southwest, and Liko, you stay here protecting Oyakata-sama. I'll go southeast, Tsunemi said, a little more serious than usual and less angry. Did you understand? Yes sir. Chiyoko Takahashi, the second water pillar, exclaimed. She had been chosen by Gyu because, lacking an arm, she needed help in a replacement. Where is the northeast? Wondered Kiyoshi Sakurai, the new sound pillar, confused. It will be fun, smiled Izanagi Yamaguchi, the new rock pillar. That's a lot of ground to cover, I'd better start running, said Hideki Idm, the new flame pillar, who hadn't been trained by anyone, relying instead on a copy of the Rengoku family's original books. Whatever, said Liko Kobayashi, the new mist pillar, dejectedly. I wonder how all this will end. Gyu wondered silently. They found me. As time went on, a rumor began to spread about someone who had the power to cure any disease or ailment but did not receive money or anything of value. Instead, people disappeared overnight. This created 2 factions. One that believed it was a complete hoax and another that claimed to believe in this person or being and hoped he would appear before them and save them. On the other hand, the demon slayers knew the truth behind the rumor and were quite worried about what the demons Tanjiro had created might have done to the missing families and people, but they didn't know the full truth. While all this was happening, Tanjiro made sure that the people of his village lived in true happiness and peace. He only allowed a few humans and a very few demons to leave the village to search for supplies, such as spices, meats, fabrics, or grains that they did not have in the village. But something was making everyone uneasy. For some time now, the few demons Tanjiro let out weren't returning. Their families were afraid, and their neighbors felt a strange sense of anger and helplessness. Everyone saw Tanjiro's worry as he went out to look for them at night. 5 months had passed since the village was formed, and all the members of the demon flowers were ready. The familiar faces Nori, Sayumi, Goro, Ryo, Ryoko, and Masashi were joined by newcomers. Asa, Bleeding Heart Flower, Kenji, Indian Canna Flower, Hayumi, Cherry Blossom Flower, Hiroki, Fubekia Bicolor Flower, and Osamu, Orchid Flower. They all wore Haris in the colors of their respective flowers and were just as powerful as the ancient Upper Moon 3. Tanjiro didn't want powerful beings to fight and rule over others. He wanted guardians who would protect everyone and give them hope. As always, this is a drawing by this lady. They are sketches, so they are not works of art, but they are understandable. She got bored of painting everyone like she did with the drawing of Sayumi and Nori, but it's so you can get an idea of what the flowers look like. Tanjiro-sama, the main leaders of some families wish to see you, Hayumi said, kneeling on cherry blossom petals, which were part of her demon blood technique. Tell them I'm coming down, Hayumi-san. Tanjiro smiled. He was sitting cross-legged on the edge of his house's balcony. The house was in the middle of the village and had been built by the villagers as a token of their gratitude. Ayumi suddenly vanished among the petals that rose up and disappeared beneath the door. Tanjiro sighed. He was very nervous and worried about the demon's absence. Deep down, he knew it was because of the demon slayers. The demons were under their control. He could easily force them back, but none of them responded. He wandered through his house thoughtfully, and when he reached the living room he found 5 humans and 3 demons. These were the parents of their respective families, 2 of them had some kind of relationship with the missing demons. Tanjiro-sama, they knelt and lowered their heads. I already told you that's not necessary, please stand up, Tanjiro said nervously. They always did that as a sign of respect, but Tanjiro didn't like so much formality. Tanjiro-sama, don't you know anything about the missing people? Asked one of the humans, who had brown hair. Unfortunately not. I've gone out at night and haven't found them. I'm afraid to send other demons, and if I send humans, they're sure to find nothing. Tanjiro walked around the men and sat down on a mat. I know you're worried, but until I can solve this, you can't do anything. Tanjiro-sama, with all due respect, we all know why those demons have disappeared, and those are the demon slayers, said one of the two demons with amber eyes, his words expressing anger towards the slayers. Let us go and confront them. We'll destroy their organization and return before dawn, said a blonde, almost white-haired human. You know what I think about unnecessary violence. Besides, I'm not going to expose you. I'll take care of this myself. In the meantime, it would be better if the affected families knew the truth. I don't want to keep giving them false hope. From afar, Tanjiro's frustration and anger were visible, though he hid it with a serene expression. The men said nothing more and decided to leave, leaving Tanjiro with his thoughts. 1,000 questions raced through Tanjiro's mind. Am I doing this right? How is Nezuko? Should I have resisted Muzan's power instead of accepting and mastering it? How long will I live like this? Who killed those demons? Does Urokodaki already know I'm following him? In short, so many unanswered questions. Meanwhile, elsewhere we see a demon. She was the only one still outside the village, but she had already received Tanjiro's message to return, so as soon as she saw the sunset, she headed home, hoping to see her fiancé and her father. But what the pacifist demon didn't know was that someone had been watching her for a while and was now following her. That someone was Kiyoshi Sakurai, the current sound pillar. He didn't lose sight of her. He wanted to know where she was going in such a hurry. Kiyoshi's thoughts. Where is he going? He just left the village, so he's not looking for food. And why did he buy spices at the market? Do demons now like to marinate meat before eating it? In any case, maybe he's taking me to the demon's nest. Aside from those two demons I encountered a few days ago, I haven't seen any other demons, and that's very suspicious. As night fell, they had already covered a great distance. The boy had ventured into the territory Gyu and Chiyoko were supposed to be guarding, but he paid it no mind and continued to pursue the demon girl from a distance. Upon reaching a mountain, Kiyoshi became even more confused. What was she doing there? She began to disappear into the mist that enveloped the mountain forest. The air was cold and the mist obscured her vision, but Kiyoshi was still able to follow her perfectly until she suddenly stopped. What is she doing? Kiyoshi whispered, watching the demon girl look around. She approached a tree and, as if it were the most normal thing in the world, lowered a branch. Immediately, a section of the mountain rose like a doorway, revealing a tunnel illuminated by torches. The girl entered and the door closed as if nothing had happened. But what happened? Kiyoshi ran down the mountain as fast as he could. He had found a possible demon nest. Surely they had been hiding there all this time since Muzan's death. Perhaps all the missing families were there. Crow. Crow. Kiyoshi shouted, searching for his curved one in the sky. Call. What do you want? The crow under a tree. Go quickly to Oyakata-sama, tell him I found a demon nest, and also tell him to warn all the pillars to come here, and if he sends reinforcements, even better, the sound pillar said quickly. Don't give me orders. Complained the crow. Don't argue with me and go. Kiyoshi waved his arms, shooing the crow away. You'd better use those wings of yours to get there fast, or I'll make crow soup. Upon hearing this, the crow flew as fast as it could to Oyakata-sama's house, but first it encountered Liko Kobayashi, the mist pillar, who was guarding the Ibayashiki family estate. Call. Call. Urgent message from Kiyoshi Sakurai. He says he's found a demon nest. Gather the pillars and send reinforcements. The crow said, flapping its wings. I repeat, Kiyoshi Sakurai found a possible demon nest. Interesting, said the mist pillar, leaving the crow behind and heading towards Oyakata-sama's house, running across the rooftops under the moonlight. Tanjiro, on the other hand, was on his balcony at that moment, looking down at the people who lived in his village. They seemed so happy. Children playing, parents spending time with their children or taking time for themselves, grandmothers knitting, grandfathers playing mahjong. This made Tanjiro extremely happy. Even though it would take years, he was going to try to undo what Muzan had done. That feeling of wanting to exterminate the demon slayers still lingered within him, but he completely ignored it. It wasn't in Tanjiro's nature to want to cause harm. Seeing all those people happy and at peace told him he'd been doing things right, or so he told himself to calm down, because he knew perfectly well that by becoming a demon, he had left behind people very important to him, people he didn't even allow himself to remember after all the harm he had done to them. Hitting them and leaving without saying goodbye, just a sorry, and running away like a coward. He hadn't just hurt them physically, surely mentally as well. This continued to torment Tanjiro. What would he do when he saw them? Not even he knew for sure. Tanjiro-sama. A child's voice called from the ground. Tanjiro, looking down from his lost gaze, saw Fumio. Fumio-san. Tanjiro smiled, it's so nice to see you. Tanjiro-sama, today in the central plaza they're holding a competition for the best flowers in the village, you have to come, Fumio said cheerfully. He was much better than he had been 6 months ago. Now there was more life in his eyes. Really? Of course I'm going, give me a second Fumio-san. Tanjiro went inside his house, put a blanket over himself and took another one in case he saw someone cold, went downstairs and found Fumio jumping for joy in his place. Come on, Tanjiro-sama, they're waiting for you. Fumio took Tanjiro's hand and started dragging him along. That was a very fun day for everyone, considering that there were now about 500 or 600 people living there. They had their laughs, anecdotes, conversations, and minor disagreements, but it was all something to remember. None of them knew that it would be their last day there. We'll launch our attack at dawn. Korea declared, standing before at least 100 swordsmen and the pillars. We'll use the sunlight to our advantage. We won't leave a single demon alive. We'll end this today. Inspired by their leader, the swordsmen began their preparations. Kakushis were preparing medicine and bandages. The pillars were surveying the surrounding area. They wouldn't let anyone in or out until Korea gave the order to attack. Meanwhile, inside the mountain, Tanjiro was having fun telling stories to a group of children who had come to visit his house after the village's best flower competition. When I realized it, I had fainted from exhaustion, Tanjiro finished, his voice filled with a kind aura. Tanjiro-sama, how did you manage to pass those pillar training exercises? Asked a curious human girl. I don't know either. When I realized what was happening, they just kept telling me to move on to the next part, Tanjiro said, embarrassed but happy. I want to be as strong as Tanjiro-sama. Said one of the demon children in a strange pose. If you want it, you can achieve anything, but you have to know that it won't be easy, Tanjiro said with a small smile. I don't care, I'll fight to become as strong as you, the demon child smiled. I'm glad, and I hope you all aspire to be more than you think you are, Tanjiro said, looking at all the children. Tanjiro-sama. Osamu suddenly appeared, bursting through the door. Outside there are demon slayers outside, at least 100 of them, in addition to all the pillars. They found me, Tanjiro said, his gaze expressionless. Tell everyone, we're leaving through the escape tunnel. Only take what you need. If you take more than you need, the hunters will find you. Kids, go home. Is everything alright, Tanjiro-sama? A little girl asked fearfully. Of course, we're just moving. Tanjiro gave a relaxed smile, stood up, and left his house. The flowers spread throughout the village and warned everyone to leave because they were about to be attacked. In less than 10 minutes, everything was chaos. Tanjiro was at the entrance of the main tunnel. Everyone had already started to leave through the secondary tunnel, which they had built for this moment of escape. It went underground for up to a kilometer. Tanjiro-sama, we're already evacuating, you're the only one left. Masashi arrived behind Tanjiro, saw him looking at the torch-lit tunnel, and had a slight suspicion that Tanjiro wanted to leave. You're not planning on leaving, are you? I knew I had to see them eventually. I couldn't hide like a coward for that long, but still I'm scared. Tanjiro's gaze was lost in the tunnel while Masashi stared at his back. You don't have to see them yet, you can wait longer, so come with us. When you're ready, you can come by yourself, Masashi suggested, approaching Tanjiro. Yes, I'm still not ready to see them. My head is telling me to kill them, and that scares me. Tanjiro turned and started walking in the opposite direction from where his friends and family were. When I was already at the entrance of the other tunnel, only a couple of people were left to come out. Asa, Hiroki, and Kenji were waiting for those who were missing. The other Flores were at the front and in the middle of the crowd to guide and control. Where will we go now? Kenji asked seriously. We'll check out a certain abandoned village, it used to be used by blacksmiths, Tanjiro said, looking at the place he had made with his own hands. The houses there weren't luxurious, but they had a homey feel. If it's gone, we'll have to dig another hole in the mountain. We need shade for the demons. That's everyone. Come on, Tanjiro-sama, we have to leave here, there are 2 hours left until dawn, Asa said, arriving from inside the village. If I'm already Tanjiro's senses were heightened, something bad had happened, he looked back fearfully, he knew what it was, but he didn't want to admit it. Asa, are you sure everyone is here? Yes, there was nobody left in the village, and they all must have left through the tunnel, Asa said confidently. Tanjiro-sama. A boy of about 13 years old came running through the escape tunnel. My brother isn't here, and neither is my friend's uncle, and several men are missing too. Hey, kid, are you sure? Masashi asked, looking at the boy. Yes, nobody has seen them and they're upset, they want to go back, the boy said very quickly and on the verge of tears. Everyone get out of here. I'll seal the tunnel so they don't know which way they went, Tanjiro said, staring at a fixed point. The demon slayers were at that spot. We're not going to leave him, not a chance, Hiroki complained. I'll go with you as soon as I finish speaking. You know you can't do anything to me. Tanjiro looked at them calmly. Go on, I'll be fine. That doesn't convince me, Asa said, worried. I'll be fine, I'll try to reach an agreement and go see what happened to those demons, Tanjiro said, taking a few steps back. Go on, I'll meet you at the tunnel exit. You promise to return? Masashi asked. You doubt me? Tanjiro smiled, chuckling slightly. Okay, Kenji sighed, let's go. Giving Tanjiro one last look, the four flower maidens and the boy entered the tunnel. When Tanjiro could no longer see them, he knocked down part of the wall, sealing the opening. He began to walk calmly, taking one last stroll through the streets of his village. Water still flowed through the ditches, many pieces of furniture lay abandoned inside the houses, and the occasional torture candle still lit his path. The flowers that had grown in pots or in the ground had been left to wither. Poor flowers. They were what brought color to the place. Upon reaching the main tunnel, Tanjiro sighed heavily. He knew what was coming and lacked the courage to face it, but what other choice did he have? He walked to the door, which was half broken. A few meters outside, he saw the massacre of the 7 demons who had disobeyed his orders and sought revenge. Amidst their bodies, now reduced to mere clothing, Tanjiro knelt and prayed that in the next life they might live better and happier lives. Yes, you have a Tanjiro face, a woman's voice was heard in front of Tanjiro. When he looked up, he found himself facing 4 swordsmen. The one who had spoken was looking at him with anger and hatred. I suppose you are the new pillars, said Tanjiro, standing up. And you're right, we're going to cut off your head, so get ready, another girl said, sounding quite animated. How are Inosuke and Zenitsu? Tanjiro asked, looking away. Why don't you ask them yourself? Suggested one of the swordsmen. The 2 mentioned came running out of the fog, but stopped abruptly when they saw Tanjiro. Hey guys, Tanjiro tried to smile, but it was more of a grimace. Tanjiro? Is that really you, or are you Muzan? Zenitsu asked suspiciously. Yes, it's me. I've always been Tanjiro, he said, sounding a little nervous. I wanted to know if you were alright. No. We're not doing well, Manjiro. Ever since you became a demon everything's been turned upside down. Inosuke said in his typical tone. Everyone's stressed and hurting. You left like nothing happened and abandoned us. I didn't mean to leave them like that. I was scared and I was afraid of myself. Tanjiro looked at the floor sadly. I didn't want to go back and hurt them. My head kept telling me to kill them. If I went back, I didn't know what I might do to them, so I isolated myself. But you could have come back. Yoshino is still trying to get the poison to turn demons into humans, but she's almost there, Zenitsu said tearfully. Nezuko-chan is so sad she hasn't left her room in months, Kanao-san hasn't stopped training, the girls at the estate are lifeless, even Sanemi has changed. And it's all because you're not here. Just come back, human or demon, but come back. I can't, I'm literally the demon king now, I have people to protect, they trust that I'll return, and I don't want to disappoint them, Tanjiro said, with treacherous tears in his eyes. And you're going to disappoint us? Inosuke said, his voice breaking. Just go, you were living your lives without having to raise a sword, Zenitsu marry Nezuko, tell Kanao to rest, tell Korea-san to be a child, get rid of the demon slayers please. Tanjiro continued with his treacherous tears which had already escaped. We won't leave without you, dead or alive, said one of the new pillars. They were watching the scene the friends were creating, but no one noticed that the mist pillar had hidden among the trees. We were also ordered to exterminate the demons, so before we kill him, tell us where they went, the animated girl said, pointing her sword at Tanjiro. Look what you've done. You murdered these demons who hadn't done any harm. They were happy with their families, and you've just taken that right away from them, Tanjiro said, a hint of anger in his voice. Just leave them alone, at least them. Tanjiro turned around and prepared to leave. Tanjiro, wait. Zenitsu appeared very quickly in front of Tanjiro. Please come back. I won't let you go, Manjiro. Inosuke approached from behind. I won't return until I undo what Muzan did. Tanjiro wiped away his tears and gave him a determined look. It's not my problem, but I will do it as the Demon King. Tanjiro suddenly disappeared from everyone's sight, leaving another void like the one he left when he first left. Tanjiro had only moved a few meters away and made his presence imperceptible, although it didn't last long when he had to dodge a sword aimed at his neck. Whether you're Tanjiro or Muzan, I'm going to kill you either way, said the mist pillar, who had jumped from the top of a tree. You killed my family, and I will have my revenge. I didn't kill your family. I'm so sorry for what Muzan did, but there's nothing I can do, Tanjiro said, tears welling in his eyes. I'm going to kill you anyway. I spent years training to kill Muzan, and he's inside you, so I'll kill you to calm my heart. Liko launched herself at Tanjiro, using every breathing technique against him, but Tanjiro evaded them all. You're a mistake, your very existence is a mistake. You should never have become a demon in the first place. You should be dead. All you know how to do is hurt others. Wait, stop. Tanjiro took advantage of an opening and headbutted her, sending her flying some distance, right where the other pillars and his friends were. "I'm sorry, Manjiro, but we have to stop you." Inosuke readied his two swords and, along with the other pillars, launched himself at Tanjiro. But this deeply hurt boy disappeared from everyone's sight. He had run at least half a kilometer when he suddenly stopped and fell to his knees. His chest ached and he couldn't stop crying. The reason? Partly because things had ended like this with Inosuke and Zenitsu, and partly because he had seen his sister hiding among the trees. Nezuko had surely run away to see him. Her gaze burned into his soul. He felt guilty for everything and thought she deserved it. New destination. We see that it is already daytime, the birds are flying, the wind is blowing, and a demon boy is walking with his spirits at rock bottom. That is Tanjiro, the demon king, who has just abandoned his family again. Tanjiro slowly arrived at the old blacksmith village. It was already daytime, so only humans could be seen outside. Everyone watched Tanjiro walk by slowly with a lost look and red eyes, all asking the same question. What happened to Tanjiro-sama? Tanjiro-sama. A woman approached Tanjiro, who didn't smile as he usually did. "See, come with me, I'll take you home. The flowers are already waiting for you there." "Yes," was all Tanjiro said, following the woman who was looking at him with concern. They walked in silence, drawing everyone's attention. Humans and demons had temporarily settled in the abandoned houses of that village. In the middle of the village was a rather large house where the woman left Tanjiro. He entered, equally dejected, and saw a room where all the flowers were gathered. "Tanjiro-sama." Nori threw herself down and hugged Tanjiro, but he didn't reciprocate as he usually did. "Hello Nori-chan," said Tanjiro's voice, its voice breaking. "Tanjiro-sama, are you alright?" asked old Ryo, worried. "I'm fine, guys, but I'm going to my room for a bit. We can talk about where we live now this afternoon." Tanjiro started walking, but was stopped by Ryoko, who looked him in the eyes. "What happened to her?" Ryoko demanded an answer. "Nothing, just that the demons that came out couldn't win the fight." "Tell your families," Tanjiro said, staring at the wall. "That's not all, what else happened?" Ryoko continued to insist. "Tell us what happened, Tanjiro-sama," Sayumi said, standing beside Tanjiro. "I just don't like that we're running away," Tanjiro said in a whisper. It was obvious to everyone that he was lying. "Tanjiro-sama, who did you see?" Masashi asked. Tanjiro didn't want to speak because if he did he would cry again and worry everyone. "It's good to let it out, Tanjiro-sama. Please tell us what happened. We can help you," Osamu said sympathetically. "It's just that I saw my friends and my sister," Tanjiro guessed, and tears began to fall on their own. "I knew it, I'm going to hit them for making Tanjiro-sama cry," Nori said, raising her arms. "Nori, shut up, you're making him feel worse." Goro grabbed Nori and covered her mouth. "I only spoke to them briefly, I felt worse for abandoning them." Tanjiro wiped away his tears, but others replaced them. Tanjiro-sama, Ryoko, like a mother, hugged Tanjiro, calming him down. "We all know what happened, what he did, and how he is right now. Sooner or later everything will be resolved with the hunters and the demons, so don't be sad," Kenji said in an understanding voice. "These are the moments when he needs to be strong and look out for his people, help them, give them encouragement and hope," Asa said with a smile and a hand on Tanjiro's shoulder. "We all need Tanjiro-sama to be Tanjiro again, we want him to smile again," Hayami said, kneeling on a mat, looking at Tanjiro with calm eyes. "MMM. MMM." Nori bit Goro's hand so she could speak. "I already told you, it's not your fault. Go on, Tanjiro-sama, there's no need to be sad about something that will be fixed, so smile. We can discuss where we'll go this afternoon." Ryoko smiled, letting go of Tanjiro's arms. "Thanks guys, you cheered me up." Tanjiro wiped away the remaining tears and resumed normal breathing, giving a half smile that reassured everyone, knowing that Tanjiro was already feeling somewhat better. "Why don't you go outside for a while and check that everyone is okay?" Sayumi suggested. "That would be good. I'll take the opportunity to speak with the demon families, and while I'm at it, I'll talk to the demons about not putting themselves in danger," said Tanjiro, now calmer. He left the house and began to walk. His spirits had lifted, but not completely. He could wear a smile on his face, but his voice and aura said otherwise. No one dared ask Tanjiro about it. They thought he would burst into tears at any moment. So they welcomed him as best they could and tried to cheer him up. This made Tanjiro feel loved and helped him a lot. Elsewhere, Korea had clenched his fist so tightly that his nails dug in. He stood before his pillars, who all had their heads down and exuded a depressed and useless aura. Gyu, Kanao, and Sanemi were particularly distraught at losing again, while Zenitsu and Inosuke felt helpless. The others were overflowing with fury. "Why didn't you attack him? You could have left the talks for later." Korea was angry. He didn't know if all this would continue. He was just a child to have this responsibility. If only Yoshino had the poison ready. Don't be angry, Oyakata-sama, Giyu pleaded. We must continue searching. They can't have gone very far. They're demons. They run much faster than us. Korea said, annoyed. But in the village we found not only demonic things, but also human things. Both demons and humans lived in that place, Kanao said, confident in her words. And apparently they weren't kidnapped, it seemed like they lived like that, Izanagi said, sounding confused. That seems impossible, humans and demons living together, it sounds like an impossible dream, Hideki said as if it were a joke. This made Kanao remember Kani when she said that humans and demons could live together. They're going out, Korea began, they won't be back for a long time, so take everything you need and more. They'll search everywhere for Tanjiro. Even the smallest clue will help, especially now that we're starting from scratch again. They'll send crows out every day and kill every demon they find. We'll send Tanjiro a message that we haven't given up yet, understand? Yes, Oyakata-sama, the pillars said at the same time. Korea left, leaving the pillars in the room. Without saying a word, they left until only Inosuke, Zenitsu, Kanao and Giyu remained, who didn't say anything until. I want to find Tanjiro, Kanao said, breaking the silence. We all want that, Kanao-san, Zenitsu said listlessly. I want to find him and go with him, I don't want to be a pillar anymore, Kanao said, staring at the ground expressionlessly. I want to go with him too. My work as a pillar is finished, Giyu said wearily, looking at his severed arm. I want to rest. You can't leave, we have to end this. Said Inosuke, although his words said one thing but his face said another, and everyone could see his face because he wasn't wearing the boar head. Inosuke, don't lie, you want to go with Tanjiro too. If it were up to me, I would have gone with Nezuko-chan to look for him a long time ago, Zenitsu said realistically. We could go find him and stay with him, I'm sure he'll accept us, Kanao suggested. I'll take Aoi and the other three with me. I'm going, and I'll pick up your Akadaki-sensei while I'm at it. He'll be happy to see Tanjiro, Giyu said with his usual expression. Alright. Let's go find Tanjiro. Inosuke stood up, determined, but he quickly changed his mind. What the friends, who were determined to find Tanjiro and keep him, didn't know was that the pillars had been listening behind the walls. Kaiashi, Izanagi, Hideki, Liko and Chiyoko had heard them and were focused on one thing. The reason they had become demon slayers in the first place to kill Muzan. And at this moment, Tanjiro was Muzan, so they were going to kill Tanjiro, no matter who they had to go through or who. The coasts. The demon flowers wondered. They were gathered at Tanjiro's temporary home, and he was smiling as always. Yes, it's a place where we can perfectly build another village, and it's quite far from everyone, Tanjiro said excitedly. A boy almost his own age had given him the idea of living on the coast, and Tanjiro liked the idea, so he proposed it to the flowers. That sounds good to me, that way humans can go fishing, Hiroki agreed. But how will we get there? Demons can only come out at night, and humans need to sleep. Masashi had a good point. I've already thought of that. We'll split up. The humans will travel by day along one route, at their own pace and time. The demons will travel by night. In a couple of nights, they'll arrive before the humans, so they can start building the village now. Tanjiro explained his idea very well. And by the time the humans arrive, 40% of the village will already be built. What a great idea, Tanjiro-sama, Hiroki said, smiling. But who will go with the humans? They also need to be protected, Goro asked. You will go with the demons, I will go with the humans, Tanjiro replied with a smile. Won't it be very dangerous? Asa asked, worried. Hayami-san could go. She can use her demon blood technique to hide in the shadows and guide the humans, Ryoko suggested. I also thought of Hayami-san, but the humans will have to arrive via a non-commercial route. It will be very sunny, and I don't think I'll find any shade, Tanjiro said. That's why I'll go with the humans. Besides, it's not like there's anyone more powerful than me these days. We'll be fine. But what if you encounter hunters? Kenji said, agitated. You've come to hate unnecessary violence. I don't know if you know, but I picked up a few tricks from Muzan, Tanjiro said, smiling. His skin slowly began to regain its vibrant color, his pink eyes returned to their original red, and his nails and teeth were back to normal. Tanjiro looked human again. That's a real magic trick, Nori said, surprised. I understand now, he'll go disguised among the humans, Osama reacted. What a great disguise, I don't smell the demon scent that Tanjiro-sama usually gives off, Ryo said in surprise. I have other forms too, but if I don't see the need to use them, I won't, Tanjiro said, reverting to his demon form. So, what do you say? I say let's start packing. Nori said, raising her arms happily. Soon we'll have the sea breeze on our faces. Everyone agreed to go out and spread the news. Many liked the idea, while others weren't entirely sure. They were afraid the hunters would find them, though they were certain that if they did, they wouldn't hesitate to attack. The people and demons of Unitedo village began to harbor hatred and anger toward the hunters, first for killing those demons, and then for whatever they had done to Tanjiro to crush his characteristic spirit. Seeing that hatred, Tanjiro told them the story of how he too had been a demon slayer, but many said that if someone else took his place and he remained a slayer, he would try to talk and reach an agreement, he wouldn't launch an attack like the slayers were doing now. The worst part was that Tanjiro couldn't refuse them. When everyone was ready, one day at sunrise, the humans and Tanjiro, transformed into a human, set sail for a coastal village to the east. With their carts and belongings, they left the demons in their village. That night, the demons and the flower demons also made their way to the coast. Since they weren't carrying as much, they traveled faster than the humans, who took a less commercial route. The demons, on the other hand, could easily climb, cross, or bypass mountains, valleys, and rivers. After 2 days, they reached the coast and began building a village in a strategic location, far removed from everything. The humans arrived 4 days later and found the house structures already built, a water system, space for crops, and another place for livestock. Taking advantage of the fact that they were building, they constructed basements in all the houses for the demons, so the families would be at peace, knowing that the sun would never reach the demons. When Tanjiro arrived, he realized there was a house already built for him. Like all the gifts his village kindly offered, he didn't want to accept it, but they ended up forcing him inside. In less than a week, everyone had their houses built and settled in perfectly. This prompted a celebration, which they held. The entire village cooked banquets. In the case of the demons, there was blood. They decorated the newly built streets, and those who knew how to play instruments played non-stop, their music resonating throughout the village. Tanjiro-sama. Come and dance. Several people invited Tanjiro to dance. There was a kind of plaza where people danced in pairs or groups, but everything was lively. "Oh, no, I don't know how to dance," Tanjiro said sheepishly, finding it amusing to see everyone happy. "Come on, have fun with us." They finished, pushing Tanjiro into the center of it all. The children circled around him, jumping and laughing, while the others also surrounded Tanjiro, clapping to the rhythm of the music. It was a very fun night for everyone. The demons Tanjiro created had human minds, and this meant that it didn't matter if their food was the blood of their relatives. Their bonds weren't broken, and that was living proof that people can understand each other by talking and even get along. The demon hunters, on the other hand, weren't doing so well. Korea had had to accept anyone who wanted to be a hunter, regardless of whether they took the final selection test or not. His sisters wanted to find a second option, but Korea was so stressed, overwhelmed, and suffocated that he wasn't thinking straight anymore. He was just a child with a huge responsibility he never asked for. As Korea ordered, the pillars had separated to search for Tanjiro, but they only found the few demons who were still loyal to Muzan, which weren't many, in fact, there weren't any left, only Yoshino who, if it were possible, would already have gray hair from trying to copy the poison that had cost Shinobu and Tomeo so much to make. Throughout this time, one question reigned supreme in Tanjiro's mind. Will Nezuko be alright? Well, let's let that answer speak for itself. A long time ago, the day Tanjiro transformed into a demon and fled. We see Nezuko on the floor crying in great pain. She had just become human, and her brother, in turn, was now a demon. The roles had been reversed, and Nezuko was very afraid that something bad might happen to her brother. She didn't stop crying until she fell asleep. When she realized it, she was in an unfamiliar room. She had a bandage on her shoulder, and there were 3 girls at the foot of her bed. Hello," Nezuko said, confused. If it weren't for those 3 girls, she would have run out of that room right now to look for Tanjiro wherever he was. "Tell me, Neho. I am Sumi. Kyo. Oh, well, nice to meet you. Could you tell me where I am?" Nezuko asked politely. "At the butterfly farm," the 3 girls said at the same time. "And do you know my brother? Where is he?" "His name is Komodo Tanjiro," Nezuko asked, impatient to know Tanjiro's whereabouts. He's not here." The 3 girls burst into tears. "Ah. Calm down, please calm down, sorry for asking, stop crying," Nezuko said, flustered and trying to calm them down. The door opened, revealing a girl with 2 pigtails. She had dark circles under her eyes, and her tiredness was visible from afar. "And what are you doing sitting down? You need to be lying down, your wound hasn't healed," the girl with pigtails said, helping Nezuko lie down. "And you too, stop crying and go get some water, fresh bandages, and the cream I left in the next room." The 3 girls left, wiping away their tears, leaving Nezuko still without answers, while the girl with pigtails saw Nezuko's wound. "Who are you?" Nezuko dared to ask after a while. "Don't you remember anything? That must be normal, when you were a demon you didn't remember anything from when you were human," the girl with pigtails sighed wearily. "My name is Aoi Kanzaki, we already knew each other when you were a demon." "Oh, well, do you know where my brother is?" Nezuko asked. Finding Tanjiro was her main concern. She would worry about herself later. We don't know, nobody knows. He disappeared. From what I heard, he ran into the forest when he regained consciousness, Aoi replied sadly. Everyone is injured, the Kikuchi, the swordsman, even the pillars, but you don't have to worry for now. I'll bring you food when I've changed your bandages. See you later. Aoi left the room, leaving Nezuko alone with her thoughts. She didn't know for sure where she was or who those people were. After a while, two boys covered in bandages arrived. One called himself Inosuke, the king of the mountain, and the other, Zenitsu, kept hugging Nezuko. They had to explain everything they had gone through and what Tanjiro had endured up to that point. Nezuko just listened and said nothing. Zenitsu promised he would bring Tanjiro back so Nezuko could smile again. Inosuke, on the other hand, just wanted to hit Tanjiro for being such an idiot and running away. She received daily visits from those two boys and they cheered Nezuko up, but she barely spoke. She felt useless. Her brother had done so much for her and she hadn't been able to repay him. She cried at night for being so weak. As time passed, he had memories of when he was a demon, so he was able to recognize Gyu, Kanao, Sanemi, Urokodaki, some from the blacksmith village, and Yuzui along with his wives. He also ended up remembering Aoi and the three girls. But no matter how hard they tried to cheer her up, nothing worked. She wouldn't leave her room, she barely ate, she spent all her time staring out the window, listening to everything happening outside. The light had left her eyes. She felt so useless that she didn't get out of bed unless it was absolutely necessary. And so the months passed. Until she heard outside her room some Kikuchi preparing to attack Tanjiro. Nezuko, hearing this, didn't hesitate to hide in a cart to go to her brother's side. Upon arriving at the place, she realized it was Urokodaki Mountain. She ventured into the forest searching for her brother until she finally found him. She wanted to throw herself into his arms and cry, but she didn't. First, because he was surrounded by pillars, including Zenitsu and Inosuke. Second, her legs weren't working properly, they wouldn't respond. When she made eye contact with her brother for a second, she burst into tears upon seeing that he had disappeared again. She ended up being found by the pillars and returned to the estate, where she sat on that bed again with only one firm thought in her mind. I know I'll be able to hug you someday, Ani-chan, I'll wait until you're ready. We found you. In the new town of Unitedo, everything was perfect. Thanks to the type of soil, the crops yielded large vegetables. The humans took care of the livestock, there were no complaints, everything was tranquility, peace, and fun. Nobody lived in the streets. Everyone had their own house. It was practically a dream for those who lived there and they reminded Tanjiro every day that he was their savior. All he could do was offer embarrassed thanks. On the other hand, Tanjiro felt many things. Hurt, happy, angry, insecure, sad, excited, among others. Honestly, he didn't know what to do with his life now that he was immortal. Tanjiro-sama. Masashi rushed into Tanjiro's room where he was peacefully reading an old book. Tell me, Masashi-san, Tanjiro said, paying attention to the man who seemed agitated. The man was going to the forest to collect firewood when he was attacked by a bear, he's dying. Masashi said very quickly. You should have started there. Let's go. Tanjiro ran out of his house with Masashi following behind, telling him where to turn. They arrived at the scene in a matter of seconds. People were surrounding a man who was bleeding profusely. He had a large wound in his stomach. In the distance, the dead bear could be seen, and Goro was on the scene. He was surely the one who had killed the bear. Tanjiro-sama. Do something. Help him. These and many other things were what they told Tanjiro, who barely managed to reach the man where he had let his blood drip into the wound. Everyone was relieved when the wound began to close, but they were alarmed when the man suddenly stood up and tried to attack a woman in front of him, but Tanjiro stopped him and knocked the man out with one blow. Everything's alright now, don't worry, Tanjiro said in a kind voice. Masashi-san, take the man to his family and help him recover his memories. Goro-san, please bury the bear. Right away, Tanjiro-sama, Goro and Masashi said, doing as Tanjiro kindly instructed. Everyone left the scene relieved, knowing that everything was alright now. On his way back, Tanjiro saw Nori with a group of children, who ran to hug him when they saw him. You brats. Leave Tanjiro-sama alone. Nori ordered. The children left Tanjiro alone. Nori-chan, it doesn't bother me at all. I'm just glad to see the children happy, Tanjiro said, smiling. Tanjiro-sama, tell us stories, a little girl asked, receiving an affirmative response from all the children who shouted together, stories. More? One day I won't have any stories left to tell you, I'm running out, Tanjiro said amusedly, starting to walk along with all the children. So tell us, why do you have those Hanafuda card earrings? One of the children asked. My father gave them to me. They've been in the Kamado family for generations. They're very important to me, Tanjiro explained. At that moment, he wondered what his father would say. First, he hadn't been able to protect his family as he'd promised, nor had he been able to fully protect Nezuko, and now he didn't know what had happened to his sister or his friends. Surely, if he could, his father would give him a good smack. Tanjiro continued talking to the children, telling them stories until it got very late. The human children had to go to sleep and the demon children had to eat. Tanjiro also went home with Nori. They didn't say anything until they entered the house. Tanjiro was about to go to his room to continue reading, but Nori stopped him. "Tanjiro-sama, how much longer are you going to pretend?" Nori asked, clearly annoyed. "What are you talking about, Nori-chan?" Tanjiro asked, pretending not to know. "Ever since we got here, you've been pretending all the time. I know you better than anyone, stop pretending to be completely happy," Nori said helplessly. "Sigh, Goro-kun, Ryo-san, all of us flowers know you're pretending so everyone thinks you're okay, but no more. We know everything will work out, but stop pretending." Tanjiro said nothing, gave her a half smile, and left. In this place, he was sometimes truly happy. Seeing everyone's smiling faces made him happy. But he missed his family terribly. They had only been there a month, and ever since he saw Inosuke, Zenitsu and Nezuko, he had to pretend everything was alright, even though it wasn't. For a moment he thought about bringing them over and having them live with him, but they surely had other matters to attend to, a life as pillars of the community, so he dismissed the idea. Besides, he still didn't have the courage to speak to them, even though he had spoken to them the last time he saw them, but he was too nervous and hadn't said everything he wanted to. We see a black-haired girl with a butterfly clip in her hair running through the forest. This was Kanao, who, even with her blindness, could move freely using her other senses. She had to train relentlessly for a couple of months. The training made her forget everything else. The fact that Shinobu was gone, that Tanjiro had become a demon and run away, that she was now a pillar, etc. If she barely spoke before, now she could only nod and obey orders. But all that changed when they went to that mountain in search of Tanjiro. Although she didn't see him, she sensed his presence. She learned everything later, and upon closer inspection, she realized something crucial she hadn't seen clearly before. Why was she doing all this? She never wanted to be a pillar. When offered the position, she only accepted because she thought it would allow her to find Tanjiro. She trained herself because she believed it would lead to his capture. She didn't sleep or eat for long periods while searching for him, as if he were Muzan hiding from everyone. But no, he was Tanjiro. He wasn't hiding because he had selfish plans. He was hiding because he was being hunted. Then Kanao felt so foolish that she even cried and made a decision she should have made a long time ago. She would go to Tanjiro's side. He was the demon king, but not an evil one. The proof that he was trying to change was in that cave. She told Gyu, Zenitsu, and Inosuke about it, and the four of them decided to go and find Tanjiro to stay by his side. That explained why Kanao was running through the forest. She was following strange markings on the ground and a faint, very faint demonic scent. Demons had passed through here long ago, and there were too many of them. She was quite certain these were Tanjiro's demons, so she didn't hesitate to follow the trail they had left. It took her 3 days to reach what appeared to be a beach. The smell was gone. She was very confused. She swore they had come this way. She walked, feeling everything around her, until, with her poor eyesight, at the bottom of what appeared to be a cliff, she could clearly see the shape of a village. She had found it. She had found Tanjiro and his village. "Crow," Kanao called. Her crow descended from the sky and landed beside her. "I need you to deliver a message to Inosuke, Zenitsu, and Gyu. But make sure that when you tell Gyu, Gyoko doesn't overhear. I don't trust her or the other pillars, so listen carefully." Meanwhile, back in the village, they had tried something new, something that made Tanjiro laugh. They were trying to make sake, and the best part was that it turned out well. The humans were super excited, and as is customary in this village, they look for any excuse to celebrate. So now they were preparing everything for a beach party in 3 days. As the lady said, we have to make the most of the beach. Besides the fact that the children and some adults were setting up a supposed haunted house and a parade for Tanjiro and the flowers, everyone was excited. Tanjiro was no exception. He really liked the idea of going to the beach to enjoy himself with everyone. Meanwhile, we see a blonde-haired boy running through the corridors of the Butterfly Manor. Apparently, no one was there, giving them an advantage to leave unnoticed. Why? Zenitsu had received the crow from Kanao. He was going to take the girls, Aoi and Nezuko, to the manor and would head in the direction the crow indicated. He burst into Nezuko's room. "Nezuko-chan, get ready, we're leaving." Zenitsu went to a piece of furniture and started taking out all of Nezuko's clothes, throwing them on her bed and using her blanket to make her into a ball. "Zenitsu-kun, what's wrong?" Nezuko asked, very confused. "We're leaving here," Zenitsu said, taking Nezuko's hand to help her out of bed and put on some shoes. Then he started dragging her through the hallways while carrying her things on his back. "I don't understand, where are we going?" Nezuko insisted, seeking an answer. We're going to go with Tanjiro, Zenitsu said, surprising Nezuko, and we'll stay with him. Wait right there. Nezuko stopped Zenitsu in his tracks and grabbed his shoulders. Where's my brother? It's very far away, so we have to leave now, before Oyakata-sama, a pillar, a swordsman, or a Kikuchi sees us, Zenitsu said, pulling Nezuko along again. We have to go get Aoi-san and the girls. Kanao is already there, Giyu will go get Urakadaki-kun, and Inosuke is on his way. Zenitsu-kun. Nezuko's broken voice made Zenitsu stop running. When he turned around, he saw her with tears in her eyes. Are we really going to see my Oni-chan? Yes, Nezuko-chan, we'll go stay with him, Zenitsu smiled at her. Let's go. Nezuko looked at Zenitsu's outstretched hand and took it tightly. They both blushed slightly before running off again. They found Aoi and the girls in the kitchen preparing food. All four of you, go get your things, we're leaving in 5 minutes, Zenitsu said authoritatively. Hurry, there's no time to lose. What are you talking about? And get out of my kitchen. Aoi pointed her wooden spoon at Zenitsu. We're leaving here. Kanao found where Tanjiro is, Zenitsu explained, pushing the girls out of the kitchen. We have to tell Oyakata-sama. The three girls said together. We're not going to tell him because we're going to live with my Oni-chan, Nezuko explained, surprising Aoi because her mood seemed more lively. Kanao found him and asked us to take them there. That's where you should have started, girls. Come on, let's pack, Aoi said, taking the girls with her. In less than 5 minutes they were already outside the butterfly farm and heading in the direction Kanao had given them. What they didn't know was that someone was watching them as they left. Pro, follow them, a female voice spoke. This was the mist pillar. Elsewhere, Giyu had received Kanao's message and luckily his companion Chiyoko hadn't noticed. He had to make up the excuse that Urakadaki required his presence as soon as possible to get rid of her and go find his sensei. When he arrived, he knocked on the door of the old house and heard her come in. Urakadaki-sensei. Giyu entered the house. What are you doing here, Giyu? You should be looking for Tanjiro, the masked man said, surprised to see him standing there. Urakadaki-sensei, pack your things, we have to go. We found Tanjiro, and along with some friends, we're going to stay with him. I want you to come, Giyu explained with his usual expression. Did they find Tanjiro? It was hard to tell what Urakadaki's expression was, but his voice betrayed a feeling of happiness, hope, and relief. Yes, it's on an eastern coast. At the rate they're building houses, they'll probably have a whole village by now, Giyu said, helping his sensei pack his things. As they were leaving, Urakadaki paused for a moment and looked at his house, where many children had passed through and never returned, where Giyu had lived, as well as Nezuko and Tanjiro when he was training. He had always known that Tanjiro lived inside the mountain. That demonic scent hadn't escaped his notice. He was surprised that Tanjiro hadn't remembered it, but he let him stay, and they could talk when Tanjiro was ready. However, if Tanjiro didn't deign to speak after all this time, Urakadaki would have to go and talk to him himself. So, without further ado, he left with Giyu, letting the souls of his apprentices take their own paths far from their master. Zenitsu's group met up with Inosuke later. Giyu and Urakadaki were the last to be found. The group of 9 people set off in the direction where Kanao was, watching Tanjiro from afar, avoiding the demons and humans who were leaving the village to avoid being found. Kanao was completely nervous. She didn't know what Tanjiro would say, how he would react, would he be happy or angry. There were still no answers to her questions, but she would soon have them, because after 2 days, those she had summoned had arrived. Kanao. The girls ran to hug her tightly. Tanjiro builds villages in days, Urakadaki said, looking at the village from afar, and it's very well hidden. I searched the entire area. They deliberately created false paths to mislead people, and the forest and the fact that it's at the bottom of a cliff touching the beach make them imperceptible, Kanao explained. It's almost impossible for them to find them, Zenitsu said, impressed. Let's go already. I'm tired, Aoi complained. So what do we say? Giyu asked. We just arrived, that's it. We'll just get there and that's it. Manjiro won't care, Inosuke said, glancing at his swords for a moment before simply throwing them off the cliff into the sea. What did you do, Inosuke? Zenitsu shouted in surprise. I'm no longer a pillar, now I'm just Inosuke, the king of the mountain. Inosuke said, arms crossed. When Zenitsu realized this, Kanao and Giyu also threw their swords into the sea. Ah, well then, Zenitsu took his sword and threw it down as well, goodbye old friend. Don't get all melancholic now, Aoi said. Let's go with Tanjiro. The sun hasn't set yet, the demons aren't going to come out. Demons don't, a voice from an unknown number alerted everyone, but there aren't only demons in this town. Tanjiro was peacefully reading by the window. When the sun set, he would go to the beach for the party they had all planned, but something was bothering him. It was almost time, and he didn't see anyone going about their business with food, sake, tables, chairs, or whatever else was needed. In fact, there was nobody in the streets, and this worried him. "I'll go check," Tanjiro said, putting on his shoes and going downstairs to the ground floor of his house. Normally there was always a flower in the living room to watch over, but in this case there was no one there, which made him even more nervous. She left her house and walked through the completely empty streets. She thought it would be a surprise from everyone, but a surprise like this had already been pulled off some time ago, so she was considering other possibilities. She heard a lot of commotion when she reached the central plaza. It had a roof that blocked out all the sunlight, so demons and humans were gathered there, along with the flowers. "Eyes, what's going on?" Tanjiro asked. Everyone, absolutely everyone, fell silent when they saw Tanjiro and suddenly formed a kind of wall with themselves, preventing him from seeing what was in the middle of it all. The flowers stood in front, smiling at Tanjiro. "Tanjiro-sama," Asa said nervously. "Why don't you go back to the house? We're about to start the party. You need to change." Everyone agreed with Asa's idea, saying that she needed to go change or eat something, maybe get a chair so she could sit down. "Actually, I was planning to go like this," Tanjiro said, looking at his outfit, which was the kimono that Nori and Sayumi's family had given him. "What are they hiding?" "Nothing." They all shouted, surprising Tanjiro. "Don't lie to me, let me see," Tanjiro said, arms crossed. "But Tanjiro-sama, this is a surprise for you," Nori said, walking towards Tanjiro. "You have to leave or you'll ruin the surprise." Tanjiro looked at everyone's faces, unconvinced by what they were saying. They seemed nervous. "Okay. Come on, I'll walk you home and then we'll go to the party." Nori took Tanjiro's hand and started pulling him away. Many sighed in relief, until "Ani-chan." A shout made Tanjiro stop and look back at everyone with a "I don't know anything" expression. "Who do you have there? And tell the truth." Tanjiro ordered firmly, walking towards everyone, making them nervous. "But he'll be sad," said Goro. "And you will cry." "We don't want her to cry. They don't deserve to see it. They hurt him." "We're not moving," shouted all the demons and humans. Even the children were there, preventing Tanjiro from seeing. "I didn't want it to come to this," Tanjiro sighed, raised his hands, and began to control the demons, causing the wall of people to break. The demons pushed the humans back, revealing what they had been hiding. As everyone suspected, Tanjiro was overcome with tears. His friends were bound hand and foot and gagged. He didn't even know what to do. He just stood there watching them. "Manjiro." Inosuke used his own strength to break free from his bonds and ran to stand in front of Tanjiro. Tanjiro's voice was weak. "Your people are very bad, Manjiro. They dared to attack the king of the mountain," said Inosuke, arms crossed and offended. "Hello Tanjiro," Kanao said from the ground. "Kanao? Let me help you." Tanjiro untied Kanao, who hugged him tightly, tears streaming down her face. Ryu had freed himself and untied the others. When Tanjiro and Kano's embrace ended, Nezuko approached with trembling hands. On each hand Nezuko's tears flowed freely. "Nezuko, are you okay?" Tanjiro rushed to hug Nezuko, both of them crying uncontrollably. "I'm sorry, I'm so sorry." "Don't apologize," Nezuko cried, hugging her brother tightly. "You have nothing to apologize for." The brothers' cries moved everyone present. After so long, they could finally hug each other, see that they were alright, and live as a family again. "They want to kill me." Everyone was filled with tears and laughter. The people Tanjiro considered his family were with him. His sister Nezuko, who refused to let go of him, Zenitsu, who wept like waterfalls, Inosuke, who wept while hugging Tanjiro's leg, Kanao, who smiled contentedly while her cheeks were wet, Urokodaki punched and hugged his student, Tanjiro was grateful that he hadn't thought about cutting his stomach, Gyu turned away, so no one would see him cry, while Aoi and the girls didn't even bother to try to stop their tears. The humans and demons had decided to step back a bit to let them vent their emotions. After a while, they decided to stop crying and start talking, with all the joy in the world. Tanjiro agreed to let them stay in the village, and apparently no one objected. Now that they knew the whole story, the villagers had no reason to attack Tanjiro's family. Another reason to celebrate. That's what everyone in the village was saying. And so, preparations for the beach party began. Meanwhile, Tanjiro took everyone to his house so they could get ready. Ani-chan, Nezuko called, looking at her brother's pale hand with its long nails. "Are you going to continue being a demon?" "I want to continue being this way. I've made life easier for these people during this time. Imagine how many more I can help with this power. I'm not interested in being immortal, but I can undo all the damage Muzan caused," Tanjiro said, looking at his hands. "You know what? I don't care, demon or human, you're my brother and I'll support you." Nezuko smiled at Tanjiro. "Thank you Nezuko." "Tanjiro?" Zenitsu shouted. "You're a cheater. You're taller." Tell me, are you using that power to get more attention from girls? Did I grow up? Tanjiro wondered, puzzled. Look, you're taller, Nezuko noticed. Don't dodge my question. Zenitsu complained. Tanjiro. Where the heck is the bathroom? Inosuke demanded. And the kitchen. Aoi shouted, holding a wooden spoon. Do you have any books? Gyu asked seriously. What does an old man have to do to get some tea? Urokodaki asked. Tanjiro, are you crying? Kanao asked, seeing Tanjiro shed a few tears. It's just I missed you all so much, Tanjiro smiled happily, the girls hugging him supportively. Everyone, ready, walked to the beach. The sun had already set. There was hardly anyone in the houses, everyone was on the beach. They had lit bonfires in several places for light, and there was also a makeshift path where the children would parade. The haunted house was already receiving visitors, and the smell of grilled meat filled the nostrils of the humans. On the other hand, for the demons, there were a couple of barrels of blood. Each person contributed a glassful and poured it into the barrel. There were more humans than demons, so feeding the demons wasn't a problem if everyone contributed. If it were the other way around, the humans would have already died. Tonight. On the makeshift path stood a man dressed in many colors, carrying a torch. The people fell silent and listened attentively. I am pleased to present the parade performed by the children of our village. In honor of Tanjiro-sama. Suddenly, several children began to appear, wearing colorful clothes and waving ribbons. The demon children were doing somersaults and jumps, and some were playing instruments. There was also a child dressed as Tanjiro who was laughing. Every time he met another child, he would take their hand and they would follow him. They continued like this until the path ended, and then they ran back, thanking everyone for seeing them. Everyone loved the mini-show the children put on. Tanjiro adored it so much that he went to congratulate each child in person. Meanwhile, Tanjiro's friend saw him smiling and knew that if only they had talked to him, the demon slayers would have disbanded long ago, and everything would have been better for everyone. The night continued, Tanjiro needed to make up for lost time with his family, so he tried to share anecdotes and stories with them. The whole night was a celebration. Just imagine the fun and excitement of everyone, plus they now had sake. So you saw me in the village? Tanjiro asked, impressed. Yes, but you disappeared as quickly as we saw you. For a moment we thought you were Muzan because of how fast you vanished, Zenitsu explained. The three friends were sitting by the fire talking, just talking, like they used to do when they were swordsmen. But I knew perfectly well it was you, nothing escapes my notice, Inosuke said in his typical superior tone. You didn't even want to go to that town in the first place, Zenitsu said realistically. Nothing escapes me, I would have found Mangiro that same day somehow because everything always works out in my favor, Inosuke assured him. Tanjiro just laughed at his friend's attitude. I've got the food ready, Nezuko said, arriving with 3 plates of roast meat and a blood spleen for Tanjiro. The 4 of them sat down to eat. That moment reminded Tanjiro of so many beautiful moments he hadn't noticed before and how lucky he was to have such good friends. He felt happy. Before the sun began to rise, they started to leave. Everyone gathered their belongings. The rest would stay there until they took a nap, at least the humans would. Tanjiro let his friends live in his house until they built one of their own, or if they wanted, they could stay with him. He was alone enough in that enormous house they had built for him. Nezuko, I have to go back to the beach, Tanjiro told his sister as soon as they entered the house. Everyone was dispersing so they could sleep for a couple of hours. Why? Nezuko asked, her sleepiness evident from miles away. I forgot my blanket at the beach, I'll be right back, I'm not sleepy anyway, you go to sleep, you need it. Tanjiro smiled at his sister affectionately. He had truly missed her. Okay, come back soon, Nezuko said, but before Tanjiro could leave, she hugged him. I'm really glad you're here with me, Ani-chan. I missed you too, I'll be right back. After accepting the hug, she left the way she had come in. Take care, Nezuko said as she watched her brother leave. A sudden feeling of nervousness came over her, and with that thought in mind, she went to sleep. Tanjiro walked calmly towards the beach. Dawn had broken, and it was beautiful. The sky was a beautiful blue, with rays of sunlight and, on the other side, the lingering darkness of night. As a demon, Tanjiro had learned to better appreciate the things life offered, like cherishing a sunrise, spending time with loved ones, and making others happy so that they could all be happy together. Upon arriving at the beach, she found her blanket but decided to approach for a moment where the sea touched the sand. This, another moment to observe, relaxing, everything is in order, nothing seemed to be wrong in those beautiful seconds. Obviously there had to be a catch. Tanjiro felt a presence, opened his eyes suddenly, and as he turned around he could feel something piercing his chest. An arrow. He looked at her. She had a piece of paper on it. The words read. Now it's your turn to suffer. Tanjiro's veins became more prominent, his eyes grew larger and more intense, the mark on his forehead expanded, his teeth sharpened, and he began to growl. Whatever was coded in that arrow wasn't doing him any good. He knelt down and pulled the arrow from his chest, then hurled it furiously into the sand. Tanjiro's thoughts. It hurts. What is this thing? I feel my senses being altered, my vision is blurring. I don't know what to do. Am I dying? No, I don't think so. Killing me isn't that easy unless they had more poison. Tomeo didn't make more samples, but she must have left the recipe. It had to be Yoshino. Tanjiro thought to himself. He let out a heart-wrenching roar of pain. He had to synthesize the poison, otherwise who knew what would happen. The roar echoed throughout the village, alerting the demons that something was amiss. They couldn't venture out in the sunlight, and this was driving them mad. They were powerless to do anything. Upon learning of the situation, the humans began to take matters into their own hands, using anything they could to defend themselves. The flowers were desperate and angry. They didn't know what to do for Tanjiro. They had very little information, but of one thing they were certain. They had to help him. He told you I'm going out. Nori shouted furiously, struggling with Sayumi and Goro who wouldn't let her leave. Don't be stupid, you'll die. Goro yelled, grabbing her feet. Let's think with a cool head, Masashi tried to calm things down. Don't say that, Masashi-kun. Tanjiro-sama is suffering. We all feel it, he's literally sending us distress signals. Hiroki exclaimed, exasperated and annoyed. The humans have to go, there's nothing we can do, said old Ryo. But why? We're supposed to be the protectors, we should be able to go out and fight whoever's out there hurting Tanjiro-sama, Asa complained. At this moment we are completely useless, the only thing we can do is move in the shadows watching everything around the village, Ryoko declared seriously. What's going on here? Inosuke literally burst through the wall. Behind him came Kanao, Gyu, Zenitsu and Izuko, all looking uneasy. Where's Ani-chan? Nezuko asked in a panic. Sayumi searched for light words to describe the worrying situation that had suddenly arisen. He's in pain. Something happened. We don't know exactly what, but we don't think it's anything good. Where is Tanjiro? We'll go and find out what happened, Gyu said, his expression blank on the outside, but his mind filled with anguish. He said he was going to the beach for his blanket, Nezuko told her, beginning to fear the worst. Then there's no time to lose, Kanao said confidently, starting to walk out of the room. She was followed by the people who had previously held the title of pillars, along with Nezuko. Do you think Tanjiro-sama is alright? Hayami asked after a few seconds of silence. We don't know, but this doesn't look good, Osamu feared. No one knew exactly what was happening. The only one who understood the full situation was Tanjiro, who now writhed in the sand from the sharp pains that tormented his entire body. His nerves were on edge, his skin burned, he was fighting his ravenous hunger, and his arrow wound wouldn't close, yet no blood flowed from it. Suddenly, he caught a whiff of something metallic. He looked up. There was a forest in that direction. It reeked of human blood, fresh, sweet, perfect for satiating his hunger. He ran like a dog toward the woods, using his nose to search for the source of that enticing scent. As he ran, he clawed at trees to vent his frustration and roared like a wild beast. He had no idea what was in that arrow, but he unleashed all the instincts he had kept suppressed all this time. In the distance, he spotted the source of the blood. It was Fumio, who had broken and badly injured his leg. He was crying on the ground. Tanjiro approached, watching him like a tiger eyeing its prey. They were about 36 meters apart. Tanjiro's thoughts. Stop. Please. Don't go on. I don't want to eat Fumio-kun. But he looks so defenseless and I'm so hungry. No. I won't even touch Fumio-kun. No matter how hungry I am. Someone please help me. He pleaded anxiously. With each step Tanjiro took, he slowed down until he was 8 meters away from Fumio. He refused to move. No matter how hungry he was, he wouldn't eat humans, never again. He would never forgive himself. Tanjiro-sama. Get out of here. They want to kill you. Fumio shouted when he realized Tanjiro was beside him like a wild animal. Run. The hunters are here. A hail of arrows suddenly descended. Tanjiro, using what little coherence he had left, lunged forward and shielded Fumio. In return, 5 arrows pierced his back and Tanjiro let out a sharp cry of pain. Without warning, he was surrounded by swordsmen, all ready to attack with their best techniques and prepared to go beyond the limit if necessary. Kamado Tanjiro, the Demon King, former swordsman, brother of the former demon Kamado Nezuko, and one of those who fought to kill Muzan Kibutsuji, a familiar face appeared. Liko, the Mist Pillar. She held a sword in her hand and behind her appeared the other pillars. Kaiashi, Sound Pillar, Izanagi, Rock Pillar, Hideki, Flame Pillar, and Chiyoko, Water Pillar. But what about Tsunemi? Today. By order of the demon hunters, you will be killed by our swords and the demon realm will end. Hideki spoke seriously and firmly. I didn't do anything wrong, Tanjiro stammered, literally going berserk. So much food was right in front of him and he refused to touch it. They were declaring war on him and yet he still held back. Maybe not you, but that damned Muzan will, Gyuko said sleepily. The only reason we all became swordsmen was to avenge our families who died unjustly at the hands of Kibutsuji or some other demon, and the day we're going to defeat him, he finds another damn way to escape inside a boy's body. Izanagi shouted angrily, pointing the tip of his sword at Tanjiro. We don't care if you're Muzan or not, what you did or didn't do, you're a demon, and no swordsman will rest until this race is completely exterminated, Koichi said, then pulled out a small vial containing a light blue liquid. See this? This is what will kill you. It was courtesy of that demon named Yoshino. He'd finally run out of poison, and by making enough to kill you, he became useless, so we're spared that nuisance. Liko smiled proudly, tossing a piece of Yoshino's clothing and Tomeo's hair tie near Tanjiro. Thank the pacifist demon. Because of him, you'll die. Kyoshi drew a spear and coated the tip with the azure liquid. Tanjiro was ready to attack if he had no other choice, but apparently it wasn't necessary. From the treetops, Gyu, Kanao, Zenitsu and Inosuke descended around Tanjiro, protecting him. This is madness, Liko. Tanjiro isn't being influenced by Muzan. Quite the opposite, so stop this nonsense and lower your sword. Gyu said angrily, glaring at the demon slayers. And the pillars arrived traitors. After everything Oyakata-sama did for you, you decide to turn your backs on him and go off with a demon. Gyuko said angrily. I'm not a traitor. Damn you. Don't your acorn brains understand that Tanjiro doesn't want to hurt anyone? Inosuke shouted angrily. Oyakata-sama would never have wanted this, he's just a child, Kanao said seriously, while bandaging Fumio who had fallen unconscious from lack of blood. Ani-chan. Nezuko pushed her way through the swordsman and reached Tanjiro. She hugged him. Tanjiro had calmed down a bit. Whatever was in the arrow had been synthesized. The arrows let me take the arrows away. Nezuko, almost crying, removed all the arrows from Tanjiro's back. Those wounds had closed, but the wound from the first arrow was still there. Leave this place, don't come back, and if you do return, come and talk. The demons here aren't evil, Zenitsu said, firm and serious as he had never been seen before. Leave? Ha, I repeat and stand by it, we will not leave here until the Demon King and all his followers are dead. Liko smiled and snapped her fingers. Ropes emerged from among the swordsmen. The ropes ensnared the former pillars, and with nothing to defend themselves, they were pulled toward the crowd of swordsmen who captured them. Nezuko hugged Tanjiro in fear and he turned his head, seeing his friends being stopped with no way out. Hey! Demon King. This one's for all the innocents your race has made suffer. Kyoshi shouted, using the breath of sound. First form. Roar. He threw the spear with all his might. Tanjiro was about to grasp the spear as it reached him, but a terrible chill gripped his entire body. A monstrous paralysis erupted from the first wound and coursed through his entire being, preventing him from reaching for it or making any movement. Never, not for a moment did he think that all this would end like this, being pierced by a spear. Along with his younger sister who had been hugging him fearfully. The spear first entered through Nezuko's back and the tip emerged from Tanjiro's back. Two birds, one shot. Nezuko Tanjiro took his sister's face in his trembling hands, which was turning pale. Ani-chan, said his sister's weak voice, the last living piece of his family that remained. Nezuko, don't do this to me, Nezuko, please, and no, Tanjiro whispered, starting to cry. Well, we'll end up killing the demon brothers, Gyuko said mockingly. Double prize. Nezuko Tanjiro whimpered inconsolably as he watched his sister appear before his eyes. No. The cry of anger mixed with pain caused a crater to form beneath the brothers, sending all the swordsmen flying with a ferocious gust of wind. Roots sprouted from the ground, enveloping Tanjiro in a large wooden sphere. Attached to the root sphere was a thick wooden trunk, lifting the sphere to at least 100 meters in the air, leaving everyone stunned. Nezuko-chan. Zenitsu cried, sobbing. You're all bastards. He broke free from his bonds and immediately assumed his first stance, stealing a sword from another swordsman. Blue and yellow lightning flashed around him, illuminating his being, and acidic tears floated. I don't give a damn who you are now. I'll kill you with my own hands. Inosuke broke the rope that had tied him up and began to fight the swordsman with his bare hands. Gyu and Kanao angrily imitated their companions' actions. Meanwhile, inside the sphere. Nezuko, please, don't leave me too, Tanjiro pleaded, cradling Nezuko's body, still pierced by the spear. The pain of the poison paled in comparison to the anguish in his heart. Rays of light filtered through the few openings between the roots of the sphere, casting a melancholic air. Ani-chan, calm down, Nezuko said, crying softly, her skin losing color more and more. "Nezuko, you can live if I turn you into a demon, please let me turn you into a demon," Tanjiro begged, sobbing, wishing that Kami-sama wouldn't take his sister away. "I don't want to, Ani-chan, the last thing I want is to cause you more trouble, you could die now too, they're turning you into a human," Nezuko's words were faint. "I don't care what happens to me, I want you to live, I fought so hard for that, please, let me make you the demon queen," Tanjiro begged. "That won't happen, Ani-chan, I was a demon once, that position is yours, let me go with my brothers, mom and dad," Nezuko said, bleeding with every passing second. "No, no, Nezuko, please, you have to live, please," Tanjiro said, embracing his sister's body. "Please, please. Don't worry," she stroked her brother's cheek. "We'll wait for you upstairs. Fix things up here," those were Nezuko's last words. The arms that had been around Tanjiro's neck now lay lifeless. "Little sister," Tanjiro whispered in pain, then a heart-wrenching scream was heard which reached everyone's ears. The birds and nearby animals fled at the scream, the clouds cleared, and the demons growled in frustration at being unable to act because of the sun. Meanwhile, the armed humans marched toward the group of swordsmen. This was their moment to defend their home. It was almost noon. A large number of swordsmen had tried to climb onto the sphere where Tanjiro was hiding, but it seemed to have a life of its own. It brought out spikes from its trunk, which had managed to injure more than one swordsman. The humans had arrived, and after literally throwing the swordsmen out of their territory, they began to stand guard around the tree trunk. For some reason, Tanjiro hadn't come out yet, but they would let him come down, so he could answer all their questions. The hunters watched intently, observing their main target's next move. They only needed one more dose of the poison, and he would revert to human form within minutes. Moreover, thanks to the extremely potent venom, he would also die. On the other hand, Tanjiro didn't know what to do. If he went out, they would kill him, but if he didn't think the swordsman would show much mercy to the humans of his village for long. Nezuko had told him that he had to fix things, and that after that, she would wait for him. Tanjiro could perfectly sense his new destiny. He knew the demons could no longer exist in this world, whether good or evil. The existence of demons always harmed human life in some way. Even that, after thinking it over, she decided to pull one of her last cards out of her sleeve. She had taken it from the few mementos Muzan had left her. She never imagined she would have to play that card, but the situation made it necessary. The moment has arrived. Tanjiro caused the sphere where he was imprisoned to open, revealing a bright blue sky. A few clouds were approaching from the east, and the air was pure. He sighed. He took a moment to close his eyes, to calmly feel the atmosphere that surrounded him. The breeze caressed his hair, the silence lulled him and enveloped him calmly. Izuko's body lay behind him, like a princess fast asleep in a deep endless slumber. This was going to hurt Zenitsu deeply. Tanjiro began to move one of his arms in upward circles, creating a tornado as he tried to draw in as many clouds as possible. On land, the demons, noticing the amount of shade offered to them, didn't hesitate to emerge. The sun had been obscured by clouds, and they rushed out to save their king. No matter the cost, they would do it. Tanjiro knelt beside his sister and slowly lowered the log into the ground. Below, the others waited expectantly, unsure of what they would find when Tanjiro emerged. Zenitsu and Inosuke feared for Nezuko's life. They froze when they saw her lying there. She was dead. "Nezuko-chan." Zenitsu cried out in anguish. He rushed over and took one of her hands. It was cold, devoid of any heartbeat. "No. No. No. Please, no." He hugged the lifeless body, weeping, even kissing her cheek as he trembled with grief. Inosuke couldn't even look at her. He turned away and wept silently inside his mask. Gyu and Kanao felt utterly useless, while demons and humans alike watched the scene with sorrow. Tanjiro-sama, Asa said, approaching him. "I didn't mean to interrupt, but we have to go. The hunters are surrounding us." "Actually, we're not going to run away anymore," Tanjiro said calmly. He began to stand up. "Are we going to fight?" Hiroki asked excitedly, an excitement somewhat inappropriate for the moment, but that's just Hiroki. "No, no one is going to fight." Tanjiro finally stood up and looked at everyone, humans and demons together. "Just a few years ago, that would have been just a dream. I'm going to resolve this without any violence, and everyone will get what they want." "Tanjiro-sama, you're not planning to surrender, are you?" Osamu asked fearfully, his question alarming everyone. "Yes, in a way I'm going to surrender," Tanjiro replied calmly. "You can't do that. Don't you understand they want to kill you?" Nori shouted as she arrived. The idea of Tanjiro surrendering didn't please anyone. "Nori-chan, do you remember the first time you saw me? The day before that would have meant the complete extinction of demons, but Muzan turned me into a demon, and everything that happened. The world, humans and demons, can no longer coexist. All of you were clear proof that the two races can live together perfectly, but unfortunately, it can't continue, and I've decided that I'll end all of this," Tanjiro said, carefully choosing his words. Are you talking about exterminating all the demons? Goro asked. I'd gladly give my life if all this chaos can end, Kenji offered. I'll give mine too, if this is the only way, Sayumi said. This old man's life can end now, Ryo said calmly. Many demons began to offer themselves. If exterminating the demons was Tanjiro's choice, they would gladly give their lives. Everyone is very brave, but I'm not saying everyone should sacrifice themselves. Hayami, can you bring the pillars here, please? Tanjiro asked. Hayami was surprised, but after disappearing into cherry blossom petals, it only took a few seconds for the pillars to reappear, and Hayami emerged amidst more petals. What? Chiyoko exclaimed in surprise, finding herself not in her usual place, but surrounded by demons, humans, and Tanjiro. Pillars, can we talk? Tanjiro asked with a small smile. How will we know you won't attack us? Hideki asked, gripping the hilt of his sword, alert. If I wanted to attack you, I would have done so already. Even though I'm weakened, I'm still the Demon King, Tanjiro replied calmly. Actually, I want to make a deal with you. What kind of deal? Koichi asked suspiciously. You will get what you want, the demons will cease to exist, and I will take the last vial of poison, Tanjiro explained. And what do you want in return? Liko asked, sword in hand. I want the demon slayers disbanded and the swordsmen to leave this village in peace, Tanjiro said, looking at Liko. Are you surrendering? Izanagi asked incredulously. Basically, Tanjiro replied. Wait. This isn't how things should be. Chiyoko said angrily, her voice thick with despair and madness. You're supposed to be fighting. We should have avenged our families and all those killed by demons. I should get my revenge. Kyoko-san Kiyoshi tried to speak, but was interrupted by a punch from Chiyoko. Nothing. I should it's all your fault. Chiyoko, out of control, tried to lunge at Tanjiro with her sword, but Liko stopped and knocked her unconscious. I have principles, a deal is a deal, and I accept the truce, Liko said. But first, eliminate all the demons, Hideki said resolutely. Of course Tanjiro looked at his village. Humans and demons were mixed together. He uncovered his right arm and cut himself with his fingernails, but instead of blood, a purple smoke billowed out, spreading rapidly throughout the area, reaching every corner of the forest, the village, and beyond. The smoke quickly dissipated. The demons had inhaled it, and suddenly they began to notice changes. Their skin became more vibrant, their nails and teeth were no longer sharp, and their eyes regained their round pupils. Incredibly, they had become human again. But Tanjiro couldn't take it anymore and fell to his knees, spitting out a little blood, alerting everyone. Inosuke, Zenitsu, Gyu, and Kanao surrounded him, holding him up so he wouldn't fall. How did you do that? Izanagi asked, his mouth agape. Years ago, Muzan, in his quest to dominate the sun, accidentally discovered how to turn demons into humans. He kept the secret to himself, but when he transformed me into a demon, I was able to see a few of his memories, including that one, Tanjiro said, sounding a little weak. Liko approached slowly, everyone stunned that demons were now human again. There wasn't a sound in the air. When Liko reached Tanjiro, she set her sword aside, knelt on one knee, and held out the small vial containing the blue liquid. Tanjiro, you don't have to do this, pleaded Zenitsu, who was still crying. Zenitsu, I want to end this once and for all. Tanjiro gave him a reassuring smile. I'm so sorry about Nezuko, but I don't think she would have wanted to see you cry anymore. She knew you were very brave. Tanjiro-san Kanao wanted to say something, but the words wouldn't come. Finally, she decided to say it with a slight smile, it was an honor and a pleasure to meet you. You're a great person, Kanao. I hope you'll take care of Aoi-san and the girls, Tanjiro said. Kanao smiled at him as tears welled up in her eyes. Inosuke's still as amazing as ever, Tanjiro said with a smile. Inosuke removed the boar head, he was crying king of demons, I, the king of the mountain, affirm that you were a great friend, Tanjiro. Thank you, Inosuke-gyu, I already told you, but thank you for not killing Nezuko that day in the forest, and tell your Akadaki-sensei that he was a great teacher, Tanjiro said. I will pass on your message, Tanjiro. I will take care of your Akadaki-sensei, and I know that in another life we will meet again. Gyu smiled slightly, his eyes stinging a little. And you, Tanjiro looked at the flowers, now human again. I am deeply grateful to you for following me, but it is time for you to live your own lives. It was a great pleasure for us to meet you and to be with you, Tanjiro-sama, said old Ryo. I will never forget it and I will always be grateful, Asa said with a slight bow. Rest, Tanjiro-sama, you deserve it, Hiroki said, trying to remain calm. I will pass on your words to future generations, Tanjiro-sama. I am very grateful to you for everything, Ryoko smiled, her eyes filled with tears. My family and I will always remember him, Kenji said, crying. He was a great leader for such a young age, I will always take the advice he gave me, Masashi said gratefully. I will remember this for the rest of my life, and I will make sure that no one forgets it, Goro said, bowing. I will be grateful to you for the rest of my life for what you did for everyone. Rest well, Tanjiro-sama. Asado-sama lowered his head, holding back tears. I will remember him for saving me. I hope he can be reunited with his family, Hayami said gratefully. It was a pleasure meeting you, and I am immensely grateful for everything you did for me and my sister, Sayumi cried without any shame. I told you I would follow you to see what you would do with your new life. I never imagined this. It was a great pleasure to be your friend Tanjiro-sama, Nori said, her voice breaking. She was crying her eyes out. The world is full of surprises. I hope you all can live your lives to the fullest. Tanjiro slowly took the small vial of poison, opened it, and drank it. He felt a very sharp pain, but he masked it by giving everyone a reassuring smile. The clouds began to dissipate, the sun's rays began to strike the earth, and as soon as they reached Tanjiro, his skin began to burn. I want you all to live happily. You're all wonderful people, I knew it the moment I saw you, and don't be sad about my death, the last thing I want is to leave you sad, Tanjiro said weakly, but the silence was so profound that everyone could hear him. After uttering his last words, Tanjiro's body turned to ashes. He never stopped smiling. He seemed at peace with himself. He left only his kimono, some part stained with blood. Sobs soon began, and even the pillars lowered their gaze in respect and didn't hesitate to leave. They didn't deserve to be there. The atmosphere grew heavy and sorrowful. They remained for hours, the villagers praying that Tanjiro could be reunited with his family, the people he considered his family. They wept silently until they could weep no more. As the sun set, everyone began to leave. The flowers returned to Tanjiro's house. They had spent most of their time there, protecting him and helping the village, but now they could no longer do so. Nori and Sayumi decided to go to Tanjiro's room. It wasn't very full. He didn't like having expensive things. The only thing he had in abundance was books. The sisters went in and stood looking out the window from which Tanjiro always liked to view his village. The streets were deserted. Even the streetlights he had made were out. Tanjiro's death had affected everyone. Sigh, stop crying. Tanjiro-sama wouldn't like it if you were still crying, said a dejected Sayumi. I'm not crying, Nori said, wiping away the rivers of tears that were running down his cheeks. I just didn't think I'd ever die. I was the king of demons, after all. I was supposed to be immortal. You know she was never interested in being immortal. Someday she would have wanted to die. Sayumi looked at her hands. She was human again. She no longer remembered what it was like to be human. There is a big difference. So I'm going to grow? Nori asked, confused. Yes, Sai, you're going to grow up, and it's about time. You're 11 years old and you still look like you're 5, Sayumi tried to lighten the mood, and she succeeded when she saw the powder sister made. Huh? What's that? Nori looked at a box in a corner next to a bookshelf and approached it. She probably didn't have any more room for books and left them in a box, Sayumi said, following her sister. Upon opening the box, they found a bunch of fireworks and a note. Sayumi took the note first and decided to read it aloud. My name is Kamado Tanjiro. If you're reading this, it's because I've died. You're probably celebrating or mourning my death. I want to believe I did the right thing by creating this village under a mountain, though I'm not entirely sure. But one thing I am certain of is that I helped many people, and that makes me happy. I know that demons and humans alike are grateful to me for improving their lives, and perhaps they're saddened. So, if you're reading this, I ask that you set off fireworks in the sky. I want everyone to know that I'm alright and my absence had to end eventually. If you see my sister Nezuko or any of my friends, please tell them I'm sorry. I was a coward for running away. I wish I could have made things right so they wouldn't think I abandoned them, but the truth is, they are my family, and they will always be in my heart. Hoping everyone is well, the former Demon King bids you farewell. Neither of the sisters could hold back a few traitorous tears, a final gift from Tanjiro. He thought of everything for the well-being of others. That son of a why did he always care more about others than himself? Nori wiped away his tears. That had been the day he'd cried the most. What do you think about fulfilling her last wish? Sayumi asked with a slight smile. Of course we will, let's light up the sky in honor of Tanjiro-sama. Nori said, determined and happy. They climbed onto the roof and soon began launching fireworks. With each explosion of colors, more people came out of their homes to watch the spectacle, bringing a little happiness with them. Some were quite elaborate, taking on shapes when they exploded, like some of Tanjiro's favorite flowers. They knew Tanjiro was alright now. His absence would hurt, but the best they could do was remember him and expand on his words of living life to the fullest one day at a time. Inosuke and Zenitsu buried Nezuko's body in their old house, believing that would make her happy. Afterward, they returned to the village, although Inosuke ended up leaving with Aoi, leaving Zenitsu as a teacher at a school. He always carried the portrait of his last and eternally only love in his pocket. The pillars, as promised, went with Korea to disband the Demon Slayer Corps. The boy hadn't known anything about the attack. All the pillars and swordsmen had kept it from him, knowing Korea would likely refuse to engage. The boy was saddened when he learned of Tanjiro's death, but fulfilling his last wish, he disbanded the Demon Slayer Corps for good. Sanemi, on the other hand, hadn't known anything either. Upon learning everything that had happened and no longer having a job or anything to do, he settled into a quieter life, wandering from town to town, seeing what life had to offer. Gyu and Urakadaki stayed in the village. Tanjiro's master died there teaching swordsmanship to the children, and Gyu always helped in the fields however he could. Kanao, Aoi, and the girls returned to the estate and set up a hospital. This would be their way of helping others. They followed Tanjiro's last advice and lived their lives as best they could. Tanjiro had just opened his eyes, he only saw black, he didn't know where he was, then he realized that he was dead. Something that confused him was that he was wearing his black and green checkered haori. On each hand came a voice behind him. Turning around, he saw his sister Nezuko, wearing the same clothes she wore when they lived with their family. "I'm glad to see you again." Nezuko Tanjiro couldn't believe it, but he didn't hesitate to go and hug his sister tightly. "You can rest now, Ani-chan, it's all over," Nezuko told him. They broke the hug, and Tanjiro felt a few tears begin to fall. "Don't cry, Ani-chan." "I'm happy, Nezuko, I'm just happy." Tanjiro wiped away his tears. "Come on, Ani-chan, they were waiting for us." Nezuko took her brother's hand and they began walking through the darkness. "Where are we going?" Tanjiro asked, confused. "Let's go see our family," Nezuko smiled. The white light began to appear in the distance with each step they took. Suddenly, a cabin appeared in the middle of the forest. It was snowing, and the sun illuminated the falling snow. On the porch of the cabin, 6 people were waiting for them with broad smiles. "Takeo Hinako Rakuta, Shigeru Mom, Dad." Tanjiro shouted, running with Nezuko to hug his family. They wept openly, embracing their family, overflowing with pure happiness and joy. Finally, after so long, they could hug each other again. Here we drift away. Tanjiro could rest in peace, knowing he had done the right thing in his life. He reunited with old friends and pillars of support, and in the future he also welcomed his friends, colleagues, teachers and acquaintances to that place where only the dead went. The good thing is that they all lived one day at a time and with a smile to the world. End. What a great story, man. I got all emotional. This story has come to an end, I know, it's sad, but that's how I wanted it to be. I needed a different ending than the anime, a more emotional one. I hope you liked it. I did my best and I hope I didn't disappoint you. I want to thank for helping me with the story. She also created that awesome cover and all the drawings in the book. She was an important part of the story because she gave me inspiration and helped me proofread the chapters. Follow her on Instagram. Nico0502G. She has a lot of drawings on Instagram and a book with many of them. You can find the book on her profile and follow her there too. I don't know, it's just a suggestion, I'll leave it at that, follow her 3. Now this is a different announcement and it's very important, so get serious B. What I want to discuss is my next story D. I have 2 options for you, the first is called The Twist in History 9. Tanjiro, Prince of Demons, son of Muzan the Demon King. When he was just a baby, Muzan kidnapped Tanjiro and turned him into a demon at such a young age. From that day on, Tanjiro lived his life locked in the dimension of the gates. But one day he ran away to discover the strange human world. Who would have thought he would be so fascinated and yet so annoyed? On the other hand, Nezuko, after barely surviving, fought to become a demon slayer and find out what happened to her older brother. What will fate have in store for these 2 brothers who don't know each other? This is the first option, the second option is this. Pillar of Darkness Nai. Hi, my name is Eleni Valdranboski, yes, my name is extremely strange, so just call me Eleni. When I met Tanjiro Kamado and his demon sister Nezuko Kamado, I was known as Eleni, the Pillar of Darkness, and I actually continue to be known as such. Ever since I was little, I've wanted to exterminate all demons, every single one. I also protect what's left of my family. I have enough potential to achieve my goals, and with the help of my friends and family, I'm sure we'll win. I must be strong to protect my own. No demon will live if I'm near except for Nezuko, she's adorable. Those are my opinions. I'll probably publish both, but you choose which one comes first. First option. Second option. I might change the introductions, but the titles will stay the same, so go to my profile and hit the follow button so Wattpad will notify you when I publish my next fanfic. And now, this is the end of the story. I love that you all read it. It was an honor and a pleasure to write this story for you. A human says goodbye. Bye bye. Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.